Is this better? Yay!
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if that was just me or not.
No. My mic technically wasn't on. So.
Well, that would help.
Yeah. Power switch might help. So, welcome everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's Phrygia.
We have got lots of stories to talk about, and we tried to stay as positive as we possibly could, but I don't know. Here's hoping. Ah, damn it. I really hate it when this happens. Oh, this drives me nuts.
What's the matter?
Oh, just the same problem that I have occasionally when we record. There we go. The same problem that we occasionally have when I record, or when we record and then audition goes like way up into the second screen.
Uh-huh.
So that happened again.
Okay.
So, yay, fixed. There we go. And let me get Discord going here. This happens every stinking time we record something on PC. Driving me nuts. So anyway, happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good weekend so far. I didn't say your week was good, because for most of us it wasn't.
My week was fine.
Oh, good. Well, then just brag to everybody from the treetops.
Okay, I will. Hey, everybody, my week was fine.
Let's see here. No, not that. The one I wanted. There we go. Need my control room. Yoy. There we go. So yeah, we've got quite a number of stories to get into tonight. Our top stories, people tend to want us to highlight them before we start the podcast, but our top story for the tech portion of the evening is going to be a game studio that threatened its employees to give good reviews, and then Steam banned the game.
Yeah.
Because, that's usually how that goes. And our top story for the entertainment portion is we're going to be doing a follow-up on our buddy, our friend, Harvey Weinstein. As the Weinstein Company has filed for bankruptcy, but it's okay, because Harvey won't be missed.
Oh, probably not.
We'll wish we could forget him, but then we'll have, well, you guys will see in a little bit. It's a little traumatizing to talk about. It's definitely one of those things that I wish I could unsee, but as I pointed out to Alex earlier today, once you've unseen what looks like George R.R. Martin writing Game of Thrones at his desk naked, it's kind of hard to unsee anything else.
Thanks for that. You know how tempted I was to just hide that post.
Do you know how tempted I was to text you and say, who is this person, so that I can send this to him directly? I couldn't actually figure it out. What is that, Marta's husband?
No, that's not. That's another friend of mine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I looked at the picture. So what we're talking about, guys, is one of Alex's friends sent us a movie poster for a live action Sonic, and
a joke one, I might add.
Yeah.
So nobody.
Here's how you know it's a joke. Vin Diesel is Sonic the Hedgehog,
and he's like dressed up like Sonic. He's like in blue.
It doesn't even look like Vin Diesel. The only way I know how to describe it is that it looks like the dude, you know, the wolf job thing that Dan used to put up on Game Grumps. Now he can't do it. Looks like that, except
Yeah.
we've modified things so that he looks blue in some areas.
Oh my god.
I'm just looking at it and going, no, this is not disgusting. And so I sent him back this particular image, which I'll share with you guys, and then you will all hate me. But here you go. I sent this back to him. Because once you've seen that, you pretty much can see anything. And then here is the Sonic one. I'll show that too. So
Please do not show the other one. Just show the Sonic one.
I did show the other one.
Why did you show the other one?
Because you opened the door. So here's the poster that the listener sent us, and then I sent Alex the George R.R. Martin as my personal revenge against him. Okay. Now, quick reminder before we get things started, if people could move things over into the GNRO live chat, we would very much appreciate it. Just so that it's all in one place and I don't have to go looking around the various categories in our Discord to try and find it. We would greatly appreciate it.
Let me get Discord open in that case. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh, because now technically we have 2 chat rooms to keep track of, just in case somebody shows up on the YouTube chat room, but we now have Discord.
Yep.
So, and just before we start recording, I'll send out another invite link for Discord. So,
oh, I love Beyond Time. That's who sent you the picture.
Really?
Yeah, he said Marta has way better taste than to marry me.
Well, then in that case,
he's such a good guy.
See, the problem is, buddy, you outed yourself. You outed yourself to the wrong guy because now, my friend, I have to do this to you. Because once you've seen that, you can pretty much see anything. There you go. And actually, let's see. Like I said, let's move things over to the GNRO live chat, but there you go. Oh, and I completely forgot about this. Our buddy Rising Sun found the old change.org petition he made. So Geeky NRO have Shadow bring up more change.org petitions in the GNRO podcast.
Oh,
he found it. We're basically a group of morons. You've actually seen worse and blacked it out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the internet age. Everybody has seen worse, probably.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, those are our top stories tonight. We're also going to be talking. This is a unique evening because usually we have Nintendo talk, but tonight we're going to have Sony talk because we had a bunch of Sony stories this week. We're going to be talking about Sega having to remove the demo of Yakuza 6. And trust me, it's gold why they had to remove it. Then we also have Activision looking to focus on more remasters. Plus, a listener basically has been... I actually have forgotten to do this for a couple of weeks now. So, to the listener who put that up, I apologize. I didn't mean to ignore you, but we completely ignored when the Spyro remake happened that there was another remake that was announced, and so we'll talk about that too. Entertainment stuff. We also do have, in case you guys didn't hear the news, Kevin Smith actually suffered a nasty, massive heart attack, and he's been recovering ever since. I think they canceled the next tour date, but I think the entire tour is canceled at this point. So that's kind of the sad reality there is that, you know, if you were looking to see Kevin Smith, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation in a weird way, because I mean, you were looking forward to Kevin Smith, but then he suffered a major heart attack. And so it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm out on this money, and I'm sure they got full refunds, but I'm out on this money, but I don't want Kevin Smith to die. You know?
Oh, I love this. Kevin Smith mistaken for Kevin James as he recovers from heart attack.
How did you make that mistake?
I don't know.
They look like the same person.
I know they're big. I know it's weird because it's like I know they're both big men, but they don't look that much alike.
Yeah. Let's see. I posted the other image because you guys have mentioned the concept of a live action Sonic, and that image seemed the worst way they could have gone with that idea. The problem is, beyond time with that, is that I could already tell you it was fake when it said Vin Diesel, because that makes me go back to like all of the movie trailers that happened on YouTube, and Vin Diesel was always a part of the cast.
Yeah.
So like the Thundercats movie, and I would actually dare say that the makeup on Vin, like the photoshopped makeup for Vin Diesel's Panthro looked a lot more realistic than that Sonic. And the other thing too is I think there's a Zelda trailer where Vin Diesel is Ganondorf. And so it's like, yeah, there you go. That is the weirdest things. Oh yes, and we probably should get into some of the stories that didn't make it this evening. Now, I do have a little bit of bad news. A few listeners as well as panelists brought up these stories, but guys, I'm very strict when it comes to the no politics rule.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys saw the story about Trump is apparently meeting with video game executives and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a double-barreled hot button. Like it's one of those things where it's not just that you're mentioning the oh so hated T word, but I know why they're meeting. I know what they're trying to go. I know what the agenda is about, and it's like a double hot button issue. Yeah, so sorry, guys. This and a couple of other stories were eliminated because of how close to that politic boundary they were. So sorry. That it's one of those things where I feel bad for you guys. I know you want us to talk about it, but I've pretty much made it very clear. If the T word, Trump, is going to make it onto this, he had better either A, have the Warrior of the Moon protesting at his rally, or B, he ought to have a dude dressed as a Pikachu trying to climb the fence. Okay, that's how he gets mentioned. Like something very, 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 very silly needs to be right next to him. So that's basically how that happens. But we actually do have a couple of other things that didn't make the cut, and so I'm trying to bring them up right now. A couple of them made it into our group because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget about them. Oh yes, the Illinois judge who banned a teen from playing violent video games. So this was another one that didn't make. This is another one that didn't make the cut.
Just violent video games or all video games?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So the kid who shows no record of instability or anything like that. Basically, was an idiot one day and threatened that if you guys keep on talking about the Florida shooting and all that, I might just go and get a gun and do one myself. Well, that was a smart thing for that kid to do because then he went to court.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the lawyer made an actually compelling argument, like, yes, he did a dumb thing, but we can't necessarily crucify him for it, the judge passed a sentence where basically he had to hand over his phone and, quote, he was banned from playing violent video games. Now, the first question that I'm sure a lot of people had on their minds was, how are you going to make sure he doesn't play violent video games? That's a very good question. So much so that it never gets addressed. That's why I put up a tweet this morning that actually pissed off a few people saying, "Dear dumbass judge, how on earth are you going to enforce this?" And what made it even better is that the judge is quoted in the article as saying, like, it's okay, you can still play Mario Kart.
Okay.
There's no violence in Mario Kart? You said he's banned from playing violent video games. And again, what are you going to do there, dude? Bailiff Bob, come here. I know that you've served me well for 20 plus years and it's been great having you, but I need you to make sure that he follows my directive. So from here on in, you are to sit with this boy whenever he plays a game and make sure that he doesn't play a violent one. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it is you have a cop who is now paid to sit next to this kid.
Well, yeah. Okay. My guess is, considering this is a kid, they're probably going to have social services get involved. I'm not saying it's going to work, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, they'll probably have a social services involved.
Who will visit him once a month.
Yeah, once a month. It is impractical to enforce.
Yeah, it's impossible to enforce. So congratulations, dumbass judge. And the part that actually frustrates me on the matter, and this is as political as I will go on this particular story, but the prosecutor especially pissed me off because most of his evidence towards this kid was the Florida shooting. Now, normally, that would make a lot of sense. Here's my problem with it. This happened in Illinois, one of the states with a city that has one of the highest gun death ratios in the country. I think, Mr. Prosecutor, you ought to worry about your own backyard before you start bringing other states into this.
Well, that's the problem right now is because of the Florida shooting, the copycats are coming out, and so everybody's got to crack down because it's damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Okay, again, but that's fine. But again, you and I have kind of hit the same nail on the head. How do you enforce this?
And I get it. I get the judge is grandstanding. He's making a statement and he's getting his name in the headlines. You saw the story I also posted about the Rhode Island representative in their state trying to put like an age cap or something on violent video games, and all it is just political grandstanding at this point.
Yeah, you can't enforce any of this. Guys, this is the same argument that eventually, Tipper Gore, Joe Lieberman, way back in the day, all fell into, which is how on earth do you enforce all of this stuff, and how do you make sure that these violent video games aren't ending up in the hands of kids? Because it's not like you're giving GameStop the power to card. GameStop is still in the precarious situation of if you refuse, they can't say no. They can't refuse you unless you do something really stupid in their store. You can't refuse their service. So, at that point, nothing's really happening, kind of thing. Oh, and we have a special guest this evening.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Brenton.
There you go.
Good to see you.
It's been so long.
It has
been. And
so I'm happy to be here.
This is kind of your fault, but it's okay. We love you. The other thing that didn't make it into the stories that we have tonight is a few of you guys actually reported on this. So Chrono Trigger has launched for Steam. Okay, awesome. Go get it.
Don't go get it.
Don't go get it. The port is crap. The port is crap.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The port's really, really bad from what I've heard.
Oh, well, then in that case, why don't you all wait for my theory, which is since Secret of Mana is doing fairly well, let's just wait for the impending Chrono Trigger remake.
At this point, I'm doubting it. If they couldn't put a proper port on Steam, they're not going to put a proper. They're not going to remake it.
Literally, what they did is they took the mobile phone port, and threw that on Steam for $15.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. What Romney said.
I don't know this stuff because I already have like 3 copies of the game. So it's like, why do I need the 4th? The only reason I have a 3rd one is because they actually put a different ending in it. So it's
I have like 3 copies of Sonic Adventure 2.
And
so what's wrong with going in and buying Chrono
eventually
Trigger
it gets a little overdone. Eventually you need to spend your money on something else.
I get it.
Oh. That pretty much summarizes how us Ace Attorney fans feel, given that most we've had, aside from the 2 newer games, all we had prior to those 2 newer games was just re-releases of the first 3.
You shut your mouth, you filthy anti-fanboy! No, I'm kidding. Technically you're correct, but I've only paid for those games once, so because I actually still have my DS cards.
Yeah, so do I. I haven't paid for the HD version, although I'm very tempted to now that they've released Apollo Justice HD, just so that I can have it all on my DS.
Well, and I think if you go through the 3DS store, you can get them bundled, and it's actually at a discounted price. So really? I've been really tempted to do that.
I haven't heard of a bundle with Apollo Justice and the Ace Attorney collection. I know, like, when Apollo Justice was first released, they offered the bundle at the trilogy collection at a discount, but I'm not sure if Nintendo's doing that now.
The only reason I know this is when Apollo Justice HD launched, I didn't believe it initially, and I went to the 3DS store to confirm it, and yes, it's there, and I actually saw one that paired the trilogy plus that, and technically when you added in the price, I think with tax it matched it, but it was slightly cheaper to get it all.
All right, and so that may have been something they did around the release, but I'm not sure if that's something they would still do now.
Probably not. But I thought that was actually really cool. And considering, like, I know this is kind of sacrilege to say, but Apollo Justice isn't necessarily one of my favorites of the series. But I still want to get it in HD.
Yeah, although it still just makes me laugh. It's kind of mild spoilers, just not so much. I'm not going to reveal any details, but you can tell Shu Takumi was really banking on Apollo being the next main character when you consider the entire last case of the most recent.
Well, he still tries to enforce his will, doesn't he? I haven't finished the sixth game, but he's still very much like he was kind of a main character in Dual Destinies, and he kind of is one here too, isn't he?
Yeah, and with Spirit of Justice specifically, the whole second half of the game is basically Takumi more or less saying, "Hey, yeah, this is Apollo's story."
Yeah, because I mean, eventually Phoenix has to kind of go the way of the dodo as far as they are concerned, and he eventually has to be, what he is in the Apollo Justice series, which is more of an advisor, more of a mentor.
Well, unless they decide to really jump the shark and literally create Phoenix Wright, Space Attorney,
with his head in a jar.
Maybe. I mean, honestly, when you consider just how that they need to keep raising the stakes, that's why they send Phoenix to a totalitarian country.
That is what I want to see eventually. Is like it's a crying shame that Futurama has bit the dust. But wouldn't it be really cool if all of a sudden we got this fictitious court where Fry's being charged with something, and they pull out the head in the jar of Phoenix Wright, and up against him is the head in the jar of Miles Edgeworth?
Well, closest we got was actually something in the Archie Mega Man comics where Dr. Wily's on trial, and they don't explicitly state his name, but you can tell the attorneys by his design, except for like a few copyright-safe tweaks, but it's very much a case of, the lawyer defending Dr. Wily is quite clearly supposed to be Phoenix Wright.
Wow. The Capcom universe is interconnected.
Yep. I mean, how else would Phoenix Wright go up against Thanos for some reason?
Is he in Infinite? I don't think
he's not in Infinite, but I know he's in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom.
He's in Ultimate 3. So yeah, you can have that. And he's kind of a weird character to play. The other story that we have just before we get things started that people wanted us to talk about is me and Alex actually found this when we were out to dinner one night this week. And yes, a live action Dora the Explorer movie is actually happening.
I'm down for it.
Is it the same as the College Humor one?
I doubt it, given that Michael Bay is one of the producers.
Is he actually one of the producers?
Yes, we talked about this.
Oh my gosh, why did I forget this? Oh wait, it's Michael Bay. I want to constantly forget Michael Bay.
All I have to say is
I really want to see this movie now. I know that sounds silly, but I really want to watch it now.
Honestly, I get the feeling that this was probably the pitch over at Paramount was, okay, basically Dora the Explorer for adults, so basically Tomb Raider, but starring Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
I'm okay with this. Can we review it, please? Can we please review it?
I'm down for it.
I don't know if I want to. I didn't grow up on Dora, and if it's not going to be the College Humor movie, then I don't know. I'll rain check right now, Brenton. But
fine, that's fine. But I will take a rain check, and if not, then Alex and I will review it.
Okay, cool. So
I like this.
Really quick, I'm just going to send out a quick invite link. But yeah, just for the people who are recently joining, I know a few listeners wanted us to talk about the story involving video game executives going to go meet President Trump. It's not getting brought up, guys. And the main reason being is that it is very strictly under the no politics rule. And as I explained earlier on, if you want me to talk about the dreaded T word, there had better be a defender of the moon in that room protesting him, or there better be some dude in a Pikachu costume trying to climb the fence.
Well,
okay.
Another thing to consider is that there is no story. The ESA, the lobby for video game companies, literally confirmed saying, hey, no, there was no meeting or invite. He has not approached us at all. So there's no story.
Yes. Oh. So at that point, guys, again, like, I get that people want us to talk about the dreaded T word. Just like I say now in the Discord server, which, by the way, we have one now. Check your politics at the door. We're not bringing that crap here, because it's crap nonetheless. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump talking about it or Joe Lieberman and Hillary Clinton and Tipper Gore. It's all the same damn thing.
Be summed up with the 90s called they want their scapegoats back.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Although I am looking at the Ace Attorney thing. Apparently, we're both half right. What they have now is that it's currently on sale, and so you can buy both the Ace Attorney trilogy and Apollo Justice. They're both $14.99, which totals out to about $30, which was the cost for one. So, yeah, you were kind of right.
Yay! And actually, $30 is about the price that you would pay for. I'm trying to remember. Were Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice originally $30?
Yeah, 30 or 40 or so. I remember that
you're paying for what essentially, especially when you think about the trilogy, you're paying for 3 games as opposed to 1, which means you're probably going to get, as opposed to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Romney, Spirit of Justice had 5 cases, 5 or 6.
I think it might have. I'm not sure.
Whereas the trilogy had like 5 to 6 cases per.
Well,
so actually, you're getting roughly about 15 cases for the same price.
Sort of. Only the first Ace Attorney game, as it was released in the US, has 5 cases because of Rise from the Ashes, but Justice for All and Trials and Tribulations have 4 cases each.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, my bad. Because, yeah, Rise from the Ashes happened for the first game. This is definitely something that we might actually have to have our boy Alex play, just because of the silliness of the Ace Attorney franchise. So here we go. Well, let's go ahead and get things started. And I just barely put out a thing for our Discord server. So if you guys aren't on our Discord server, you're more than welcome to join. There are rules, so please go read them. There are 3 very basic rules, pretty much the same rules of the podcast. So if you want to be able to come in and just have some fun with us, that's where we would recommend that you do so. And you guys go ahead and let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Sound speed.
Ready.
Mic check? Okay, cool. For a second there, I thought my mic wasn't turned on again. All right. 3, 2, 1. Let me get everything set back up here. Okay. Jeez. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another awesome episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday night, March 2nd, 2018. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody has had an awesome week this week. Thankfully, no sudden car crashes have happened this week for me, so I'm good. And in fact, I can breathe a sigh of relief tonight because a major portion of my workload is gone. I just barely put up a schedule update to let people know what's going on there, and I cannot have that monkey on my back anymore. So I'm actually really happy about that. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow geeks, fellow awesome guys in general. And if you guys aren't following their channels or their content, by gum, you should be. And we're going to start things off with our special guest, Brinton Volley of BPV Gaming. Brinton, how you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you? Well, actually, I'm not even going to ask how you're doing. You already said you're doing good.
I didn't
I'm
die
very
this evening.
tired.
I didn't die this week, so I'm okay.
Well, clearly I didn't die either, or this could be my ghost. I'm not really sure.
It could, but it's all right. And then we're also being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, who has joined us from out of the shadows and out of the loving, warm embrace of his Black Rose poster. Some people have actually asked if you have other posters, and if so, could you interchange them so that we get a different person leering at us from behind your shoulder?
I have one other .hack poster. I never thought about interchanging them. It's kind of a pain in the ass to take posters down and up, but I could try it. Why not?
I mean, it doesn't need to necessarily be .hack. Like, do you not have like a Monica one or anything like that?
I got plenty of posters. Like I said, it's just kind of it's a hassle to really rotate posters around.
I had to give you some of my command strips. That ought to make it a little bit easier to be able to do it. You'll have to be a little careful because it's not like you're working with cardboard, but I think that'd fix a lot of the problems. And we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, of From the Shelf, of Rhapsody in Cinema, of Monster Clash, of whatever he decides to film on this given week. Romney, how you doing?
Oh, doing pretty good. I mean, the week was hit or miss, and I'm a little behind schedule regarding a certain video project I was hoping to launch earlier this week. But hopefully I can get back on track, and other than that, can't really complain.
That's kind of where I'm at too, is like, so I got this ginormous monkey off my back, but what that means now is that I'm going to be editing a lot of footage. And so at that point, like, getting back to active schedule is still going to take probably a couple of weeks before I'm there. And that's being as realistic as I can possibly be. But we are here to discuss the week's events in Geek, and let's go ahead and get things started with our top story of the tech the tech portion of the evening, where this is just a silly story. So Incel Games from Malta, I'm guessing from the country Malta, recently released Wild Buster to Steam. And we're actually, or at least their CEO was surprised when there wasn't too many reviews going out for Wild Buster, and not a whole lot of people were trying the game. And so he actually got frustrated, not at the Steam community, but at his employees, and therefore decided to send a strongly worded email to all of his employees, which goes like this. I had sent an email earlier, but I was told that some of you announced to colleagues that you do not want to make a purchase of the game and or a review. Frankly, this leaves me pretty disappointed. Of course, I cannot force you to write a review, let alone tell you what to write, but I shouldn't have to. Neglecting the importance of reviews will ultimately cost jobs. Now they say WB, so if Wild Buster fails, Incel fails, and we all fail as a whole, and then we all have no job next year. So I'm asking you to either do the following: buy the game and present me the receipt until Friday night, for which, together with a claim form, you will be reimbursed within 24 hours, or explain to me tomorrow why you do not wish to do this. I would like to discuss this individually and privately with each of you, and will follow up. So basically, this is a very veiled threat of buy the damn game and review it, or your job may be at stake. Incel games, because we don't threaten our employees.
Well, it sounds like there's going to be some job openings, so if anybody wants to become wants to go work for them.
Trust me, it gets better.
Yeah, to quote Billy Mays, wait, there's more!
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. For some reason, I went to another Billy Mays, but I'm like, yeah, we should really go for the OxyClean guy. No, that's Billy Mays. So yes, it gets better, because when Incel did this, and some people had their jobs threatened, they went out and made sure that their jobs were secure, which promptly got the game banned from Steam.
What?
And here's the statement from them. In a post last night on the Steam forums, a Valve representative wrote that as a result of this new information, the store has pulled all of Incel Games' products. The publisher appears to have multiple Steam accounts to post positive reviews for their own games.
Oh my gosh.
This is a clear violation of our review policy, and something we take very seriously. For these reasons, we are ending our business relationship with Incel Games Limited and removing their games from our store. If you have previously purchased this game, it will remain accessible in your Steam library. So because this guy got concerned that he wasn't getting a ton of reviews or anything like that, he pushed his employees to do it, which promptly got him banned on the Steam store.
Can you say self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah, pretty much. I was just like, can you say you done effed up? So yeah, let's go into our opinions on this. I laughed my butt off on this one. Like this is one of two stories tonight that I just laughed my butt off, because at that point, like I'm not sure about this because I've never done like a developer's license on Steam, so I can put stuff up for green light. You know, I wish I could develop games, but I just don't have the mind for it. But I'm pretty sure that in the tons of license agreements that you have to go through to be able to get approved on Steam, they make it very clear that if stuff comes from like the same IP or stuff comes from people who we know work there or stuff like that, that's going to get you banned. And this guy, because he got concerned, he screwed himself. And therefore his own employees. So the very veiled threat that he made earlier on in the story, he made as Romney put it, he made self-fulfilling prophecy. I just have no words aside from rolling on the floor laughing. Like, this guy definitely earned what he got here. Romney, where are you standing with this?
Honestly, it's just not that surprising. I mean, look, a developer trying to cheat the system, only to realize it's very much one of those, oh, hey, we can totally cheat the system. It's not like we're going to get caught at all, as Steam is literally breathing down their neck saying, what's this about fake reviews? Yeah,
that's the best part about this whole thing is, like, he wanted to make sure that you bought the game so that then he would reimburse you within 24 hours, which something tells me he wouldn't have. But if you didn't buy it, he wanted a reason. And he was going to follow up with you. How else as an employee are you supposed to take that other than I'm getting fired because I didn't do what the CEO told me?
Well, that was exactly what I was thinking too, hence the comment I made about, oh, looks like there are going to be some job openings soon if anybody wants to go work for them. But that would be the very first thing that I would have think of, because I'm going to tell you flat out right now, no, I'm not going to go buy a game that I just worked on, even if I may or may not be getting reimbursed. So I guess I'm going to be losing my job.
Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh in between Brenton's statement, but a friend of mine just barely sent, and this guy just barely got a letter from Konami offering him a position.
Oh my
I could
gosh.
see this. Come on. We can all see this. Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry, Brenton. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. This is all, it's super entertaining. I feel like between all the random crap that goes on week after week after week, that this is something that, you know, just something to lighten the mood. This is super funny. And I actually kind of hope that there is some sort of rebound to this, and that we hear more of what could possibly happen next from this company, like what they're going to do to bounce back from what happened.
I don't think there is a bouncing back at this point. Like, unfortunately, like, aside from Steam, I mean, what other markets that you can go to that aren't basically, you know, just dens for crap like Fidget Spinner Simulator? Like, where else can you go aside from Steam? I can't honestly think of any.
Well, I'm praying for a bounce back. I want to see one after this, even if there's not a chance for it.
I honestly think the only way that this guy can bounce back is if he rebrands completely, and he basically creates this game or he rebrands this game studio, makes some brand new games. But even then, like, I still think Steam would keep him banned, because they'd be able to go look into records and see that it's previously Incel games.
Yeah, that's possible, because all that information is available to the public. So
I think this guy, unfortunately, this guy's stint in the gaming industry is over, unless he wants to go to a bunch of shovelware sites
or going to porn.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, there's a lot of money to be had in porn, so I mean, why not?
And in porn games, apparently, as people like to bring to my attention. And get mad when I don't look at it. Alex, where are you standing with this? I mean,
Well, this comes to mind. I'm gonna share something real quick. Activate screen share.
So I don't remember the name of the character, but this is pretty apt. The ghost character from Hat in Time, Alex is sharing a screenshot of "You blew it. You've totally screwed yourself."
Yeah.
Yeah,
His name
pretty
is
much.
Snatcher, by the way. Snatcher. So yeah,
Snatcher,
that's pretty
okay.
much what this dude did. He thought he was gonna, get something good out of this, but
Send me that
instead
image so that I can put it in the RSS feed.
All right,
So-
I'll send it to you.
It doesn't need to be right now. Just like send it
Right.
to me when you send your audio so that people can see what you put up.
Right.
And we may even put up some of the stuff earlier, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this dude totally screwed himself. He fell into a really dumb trap of his own making. And, the ironic thing is he's kind of trying to coerce reviews out of his staff in the interest of, quote unquote, saving jobs, which, because no reviews and no coverage might cost jobs. Well, now you just got your whole product line kicked off.
yeah, exactly. I mean, as much as we
digital
want
platforms. Now you
as much as we want to laugh at the CEO, for the veiled threat he gave to his staff of them might having to lose their jobs, he just guaranteed that they all lose their jobs.
Yeah, what an
Pretty
asshole.
Yeah, and knowing the CEO like this, he's probably taking it out on said employees. He's probably assuming, one of you told Steam. Who was it? I want names.
Probably, but I think at this point, a lot of the developers who are looking for a payoff and are looking at the writing on the wall, they probably have left, and they're probably working on other projects. So good on them. But
I would have jumped ship.
if you guys ever come across the name Patrick Stepple, don't work for him. Just don't work for him.
Just take a stepple in the other direction.
Puns, what are they?
Why don't I have a soundboard for this podcast? Because I do have the bum that I could easily put in here, and I'm gonna have to put it in post. Damn it!
It sounds like this is something that needs to be done, Adam.
Soundboards are expensive, though.
I know,
Make them work is hard.
Those are not cheap. Actually, I kind of want to know how expensive a soundboard is. So ignore me for a moment.
Yeah, because I would love to have the and then probably just some quotes from the podcast. And just because I love it when other podcasts use this, the Captain Picard, shut up, Wesley. I always I like that moment when people are being stupid. I just want to press the button and go, shut up, Wesley. So unfortunately, we got a live chat, by the way, tonight. Could you post his name? I'd like to do some digging into things too. It's Patrick Stepple. If somebody wants to write that in so that I can get into the next story here. So moving on. Unfortunately, we wish nothing but the best for the employees of Incel Games, except for CEO Patrick Stepple, because you need to now reap what you sow. But hopefully those other guys can find jobs. So moving on into the next story. This is the other one that made me laugh on the floor. Oh, geez. So Sega has had kind of a rough week as they have had to remove their demo of Yakuza 6. And a lot of people might just sit there and go, well, I'm sure they removed it because they only had it there for a limited time. No, they removed it because players were actually able to unlock the full game.
Oh, wow.
Yep. It's a death knell for any company when your demo accidentally gives the full product.
Well, it's like the death knell for a series because it pretty much guarantees that there won't be a Yakuza 7 for like how many years?
Yep, because there was literally a case in gaming history where a company, to save costs, released a demo disc. And they thought, okay, well, if we block the other few levels, then that'll make for a nice demo. But then what happened? People realized, oh, the password cheat works. We can skip to the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's so a lot of people might just sit there and go, well, why is this a problem? Because this is a victory for gamers. Yay! It's not, because at that point, like Yakuza fans, now that people can unlock the full game, it means that if this, let's just say for the sake of argument, this thing was coming out next month. It's not anymore. Because Sega now has to sit there and go, okay, well, people already have the full game. We need to do something unique to change it so that then we can re-release it and it's unique. Now, granted, a demo can have the full game unlocked and some things may not be in it, or some things may not be polished yet, but it's pretty much the full game. So in a lot of cases, some people will look, it's a guarantee, people. If you can get it for free versus getting it for money, you will get it for free. And that's the problem that arises here is like, yeah, they can finish the game, they can add a new level or whatever, that's fine. But you've officially hurt yourself and really handicapped yourself as far as sales. So the sad reality here is that there's a reason that something like this is called a death knell for a game series, because from here on in, like after you can get a game for free, you have to like wait at least 5 years before you put out another game in this series. And if it's popular, that can kill it.
But especially considering Sega's got quite a bit riding on it, considering that there's also the upcoming Fist of the North Star spinoff built on the same engine that they're hoping to sell.
Yep.
And so that's why they would probably pull the game off, so that way you don't get a bunch of people playing the game for free. Now, the article we're referring to actually gives an interesting theory as to what probably happened, since this is a new trend with game demos where you play the demo and you have save data you can bring over to the main game when it comes out. I mean, Bravely Default did it. Instead of the limited play, you just had the demo chapter. You could take the data from into Bravely Default, the proper game.
Homebrewers have basically treated as like a backdoor. They can actually they can utilize it to get access to other elements within that are within the demo.
Yep, and then it's the same thing. Resident Evil 7 did it with the beginning hour demo, where it was a whole separate campaign. And so, what more than likely, Sega was hoping to have it where you would play the Yakuza 6 demo, get a little bit ways into the story, and that way, when you buy the game proper, it can scan. It's like, oh, you played the demo. That means we don't have to have you start from the very beginning.
Now, it looks like the removal has left fans unhappy because I guess this thing was coming out originally this month. It's now been pushed back to April because Sega now has to look at like, what can we do that's unique that is going to make it worth buying it?
Yeah. As well as having to do additional damage control and thinking, okay, what other exploits could be hiding in this game that someone can abuse?
Yeah, so unfortunately, this is looking to be... I'm not saying that Yakuza can't recover from this, but it is definitely something that I've seen other game series not been able to pick themselves up off the ground when this happens. And it's a sad thing. It's actually one of the sad realities of current day gaming, which I miss, is demos. I used to love getting those PlayStation demo discs just to try out new stuff from Square Enix, new stuff from Capcom and stuff like that.
Oh, those were the best.
But it's not viable to do those anymore because of the fact that now this crap can happen.
Yeah, it's
because
almost like
there are constantly going to be hackers trying to get into your game.
Yeah, it's almost like Sega had this happen to them before, and it cost them their arm in the console market.
Yeah, because it was Dreamcast in general was very homebrewable, but I'm trying to think of another game series that did this.
Well, I'm not sure about the game series, but I know the key thing, at least with the Dreamcast, was the video CD format, because the main running system, the main OS of the Dreamcast.
You're talking the Dreamcast. Like that. Yeah. That's what got them in trouble. Yeah, because it was very easily homebrewed. It was very piratable. And partially because of the format, also because of the fact that they actually put kind of somebody was actually explaining this to me a while ago. It's like they put a very flimsy modem in there, and at that point you could actually utilize it to homebrew it. So
yeah. Like the modem was that, then there was also the demo of Action Replay that got released that allowed people to basically to create the backdoor, plus the implementation of the video CD format that also screwed them over. Which
is really sad because the Dreamcast was actually a really great idea, but unfortunately all of its great ideas got used against it.
As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Pretty much. So, Alex, your thoughts on Yakuza 6 being delayed? I mean, you're a Sega fan. This is definitely going to hurt Sega as a whole.
Yeah, kind of a bummer. I guess it just shows you got to be really, really careful when you do these.
And right now, I'd actually say, as much as Alex is going to kick me for saying this, but Yakuza was probably a more popular brand or a more popular game series out there right now than say Sonic has in the last few years.
Yeah.
So this hurts.
Well, yeah. Although to be fair, Yakuza still is catering to a very niche market. It's just unlike, say, Nintendo, Sega is very eager to embrace their niche fandoms. I mean, when you look at their success with their music games, I mean, when you look at the guy the genius that runs their Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter, it's very much one of those cases where Sega does the smart thing of, oh, is this niche franchise players like? Rather than, pretend it doesn't exist a la Nintendo, they're just like, oh yeah, sure, we'll bring it over. We may not localize it fully, but hey, we know there's a demand for it, so let's bring it to Western audiences.
So I just got actually a unique question from Twitter, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here. Is like, yes, this affects the Yakuza franchise, but can we confirm that it will affect the 2 series that he's asking? Will it have any kind of lasting effects on, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or Shenmue? Shenmue, I don't think is affected at all. I don't think they're under the Sega brand. I think it's Sony that's mainly paying for that stuff. So Shenmue's not going to be affected at all. And Sonic, tough to say. I mean, they could have had team members that moved over to the Yakuza team, but I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be as big an issue. Aside from the fact that the Yakuza team may need to go work on something else for a while. So to say that these are going to have lasting effects with other series within Sega, I don't think so. But if you guys have other opinions,
like most I can see it affecting is that they may put their QA department under a bit more scrutiny and thinking the case of, okay, we had this happen with Yakuza. Let's find a way to make sure this doesn't happen with any of our other games. Especially when you consider the fact that it's not just Sega. Sega owns other companies. They own Atlas, for example. So they're probably thinking, okay, let's make sure that none of our Atlas games are going to have this happen. Let's make sure none of these Sammy games are going to have this happen.
My guess is, though, that since Yakuza is its own separate team, I don't know what the team's actual name is, it's probably going to have a minimal effect on Atlas because Atlas is kind of second party to Sega, so they're off doing their own thing. If anything, it might the way that Atlas or other companies might be affected is they need to find stuff for the Yakuza people to do, so they might move them over temporarily to these other teams, and then 5 years down the line recreate the Yakuza team. I can guarantee you one thing that this guarantees. I know I double spoke. Sorry. I can give you one guarantee: no more demos from Sega. It's not happening. They can't risk it.
Well, they probably wouldn't go that far. They just may go the route of, okay, they may just release a demo instead of trying to do the save data that you can take to the main game, since that seems to be the main thing that created the exploit. And it's easier to do on consoles like the 3DS because it's not always connected to the internet.
Or do we actually see them like maybe going down the road of like creating demo builds, and those demo builds are very restricted, and that's what gets put in there? That sucks for a lot of people because it's time consuming to take certain elements of your game and make them work within that environment. But I mean, it does safeguard them.
And plus, you can use it to pretty good effect. Again, Capcom did it really well with the beginning hour demo, where rather than letting you play part of the main story, they just created a whole separate campaign that, if you actually got the true ending and did all the extra stuff, gave you an item that would be unlocked in the main game, rather than trying to have you access the main story. Square does the same thing with both Bravely Default and Bravely Second, where rather than having you start the main story, it's just simply a prologue chapter that gets you familiar with the game's engine.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the rough guess of this, is that this will affect things short term for Sega. Obviously, we've seen the delay of Yakuza 6 to April, probably so that they can give some more unique stuff, maybe even put in a unique mission to make it stand out from the build that's out there now. But aside from that, there's really not a whole lot to go into here. We kind of hope that Sega can recover from this. But as I said before, I've seen other series do this. It's kind of a death knell for the series, not necessarily the company, but for the series. So,
although one thing Sega could do, and it's something we've seen before with Right Stuff Anime, where maybe if they found accounts that downloaded this demo that unlocked the main game, they could probably set up not like an officially buyback program, but some sort of program of, okay, if you sign up on our account and we see that you've deleted this demo that allows you access to the full game, maybe you get like a special item or something, because that's what Right Stuff did when they became a legitimate company. They said, hey, sell us back your bootleg copies of Irresponsible Captain Tyler and we'll give you the official copies.
Yeah, I can see that happening, or at the very least, if the game detects that it's the worst part that I'm worried they'll go down, which a lot of game studios are now going down, is that they like if there's, because there's always despite the fact if you delete something off of your computer, there's always a trace that you've had it. And so at that point, if they release this game and it actually can detect that trace, it actually retaliates against you. Like it actually bounces against you and says you went out of your way to unlock this, and therefore it punishes you, kind of thing. But I'm not saying that that's the way they should go, but I've seen a lot of game companies going down that direction.
Yeah, hopefully this means you won't have a giant unkillable man scorpion chasing you through Yakuza 6.
Exactly. Or what's the other one that I liked was I think it's Video Game Tycoon. That if you actually downloaded a pirated version, you would get pirated, and you would not be able to go forward in the game.
Or there's the alternate way where with Crysis, if you pirate Crysis, all of your weapons fire chickens.
Yeah,
that's all they do. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, like they fire chickens, and because it's on the Crysis engine, the presence of chickens in the game causes everything to slow to a crawl.
Or the other one that was like the elevator from hell. I can't remember which one it was, but like you enter an elevator in the game and you never leave.
Yeah, I mean, heck, even Sega's done a lot of these funny anti-piracy things, like the very scary looking like Sonic artwork, and just, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised. Maybe Sega will find a way to lampoon this in the final release of Yakuza 6.
Probably. I could actually see them doing something really, really underhanded there. But final thoughts from Alex and Brinton.
I'll go first really quick. I don't have like a whole lot to say, other than, you know, what all you have already shared. I think this is a good opportunity for Sega just to take a step back, and it's like, okay, like let's think about how we can avoid this in the future. And I think it would be, super cool during this period of delaying the game where they can add something into Yakuza 6 that will make it a little bit more, I don't want to say profitable, but buyable. You know, why now should I buy this after this little fiasco? Well, here's why. I mean,
I see them doing that, but also like putting an underhanded bit of code saying like if you had this and you went out of your way to unlock it, they could retaliate.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't give them, I mean, it's only like, I mean, it's been delayed to next month, so it doesn't give them a whole lot of time to really get something concrete put together. But I'm hoping that it is something that is worthwhile to make it that so somebody wants to buy a $60 game in the end.
This just in, and I don't know much from Yakuza games, but somebody actually says, from here on in, going with the pink scorpion idea, there will be a man with a red dragon tattoo and a knife that will kill you instantly, that will chase you from there on in the game. I can see that. I can see that happening.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Alex, what about you?
I don't have any more thoughts, really.
Are you worried for Sega at this point, or?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I think they'll bounce back. If this has happened before to others, Sega's a big company. It might put a bit of a dent in, say, Yakuza sales. I don't think it's gonna kill it just because a lot of people got it for free. I mean, you know, speaking from experience, there's plenty of ways to get free anime out there, but people still buy the discs.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, because that's the best that I can actually give of this one. Moving on into the next story. Now, usually on the podcast, if you're brand spanking new, first of all, welcome. We usually have a lot of stories that come in from Nintendo. Nintendo's been kind of quiet recently, and I have a feeling they will remain quiet for a little while longer before we start getting some news for things like Pokemon and Metroid and stuff like that. But tonight we have an unusual one because we got a lot of Sony stories this week. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the first one. Now, the person who actually brought this to my attention was skeptical, and I can see why they were, because they are saying that it's that the announcement that we're about to make is on the agenda from April 1st. So, you know, April Fools, a lot of people think it's like an early April Fool's story. But it looks like Sony is looking to restructure to focus more on first-party games. So to basically kind of give people a viewpoint of what first-party is, first-party would be something that's developed in-house. So the reason that Nintendo has such a cornering on the market is a lot of their games are produced in-house. They have multiple teams working on Zelda, Pokemon, F-Zero. I'm throwing out examples here, but Mario would get its own team. Yoshi gets its own team. Splatoon gets its own team, kind of thing. Second party is where you're dealing with companies that exclusively work with that console or with that big three company. So in a lot of cases, Platinum right now would be considered a second party developer for Nintendo. Rare, while being a second party developer for Nintendo in the past, would now be considered a second party developer for Microsoft, considering that they only develop for the Xbox, kind of thing. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is we're looking that as of April 1st, Sean Layden, the chairman of Worldwide Studios and president of Sony Interactive Entertainment, will concentrate his focus on continuing to provide platform-defining content that helps drive the growth of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Okay, so at that point, he's looking to do more first-party stuff. I'm sure second parties in there too. They do trust their second-party developers. But if you look at this, that might actually be a really great thing for them, considering that if you look at Nintendo, they kind of have the corner market on first party development. But then when you go to Sony and Microsoft, that drastically changes. They maybe have one or two games that are being developed in-house. Most of the time, a lot of their independent content that's there is developed via second party. But now and this is not the case for Sony. Way back when, they actually used to do a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. They've since kind of pushed back and took that money and funded into reliable developers like Naughty Dog and kept them there, or their Santa Monica studio for the God of War series. But now they're looking to actually do more in-house stuff. And that would be amazing to me, because I literally looked in this in my head on the amount of first-party games that have come out. I could only think of one. And that was Knack. Knack is the only one that I can think of that was developed in-house at Sony. All of their other popular stuff is at least second party, if not third party. So I'm just going to go down the panel. Do we think this is a good move or a bad move?
Honestly, it doesn't quite surprise me that they're going this route, given that Microsoft is trying to do the same. And considering the success of the Switch, Sony is probably trying to find a way to draw people to their console, given that now they can't really bank on the novelty, nor can they bank on the fact that it's out ahead of its competitors. They now have to start coming up with titles that will actually draw people to choose one console or another, especially given that with a market full of third parties, a lot of people who basically want to have it all are going to flock to the PC. So naturally, they need to come up with something that's going to get the players to put the money down for the PlayStation console and keep them coming back.
Yeah. Me personally, I actually think it's a great idea. I think that in this day and age, especially when you have to consider there is a console war going on, you have to have stuff that's unique and exclusive to your console. And right now, Nintendo has a lot of that. That's why in a lot of cases, people, especially geeks that have been around since, childhood, have been around for as long as they have, is because it's pretty much guaranteed that with a new Nintendo console, you're getting a Zelda, you're getting a Mario, you're probably getting a Metroid, you're probably going to get a Mario Kart. There's stuff to look forward to. And Sony is the only other company that I can think of, aside from maybe Sega, that has, I'm saying existing company, of the big three, that has this kind of reliability. Microsoft really doesn't have it, because a lot of their popular titles have been either second or third party.
Yeah. Especially when you consider the console exclusivity deals they tried to strike with companies like Capcom and Square Enix haven't quite panned out. I mean, case in point, Rise of the Tomb Raider is like, oh yeah, it was exclusive to this one console, but only for like a year. Same case with, and granted, this was the case with Xbox, where it was exclusive, but that it's also showing that those arrangements don't work either.
Well, Romney, remember, one of the biggest selling points for this current generation of consoles was that they had exclusive fighting games. So in a lot of cases, like where Xbox was advertising, they were the only ones that had Killer Instinct, because you couldn't get it on PC early on. You could only get it for Xbox One. And then Sony countered that by working out a deal with Capcom to get Street Fighter V exclusive for PS4. So and that's not the case now, but that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to corner, like, this is our premier fighting game. This is our premier shooter, because PlayStation was really hoping that Killzone would be their premier shooter on that franchise, to counter Halo on Microsoft's end. So there was a lot of push for that, but since then, like since the beginning of this generation, there really hasn't been that kind of a push anymore.
Nope, it's because it's very much one of those cases where even for the third-party companies, such arrangements aren't very profitable, especially when you look at stuff like Killer Instinct and Street Fighter, where it's a case of, hey, we want to be able to have players play in these large-scale tournaments. Trying to be exclusive to these consoles is only going to hurt the player base and hurt our sales. Then, well, Dragon Ball FighterZ kind of came and mopped the floor with all of them and said, hey, here's a fun, accessible fighting game for everyone. Yeah,
pretty much. Well, by that point, Street Fighter V was available on I think they have an Xbox release. They were definitely available on PC. You could also get Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite that way. So, like, fighters came in and they did what a bunch of other people have already done, but they've done it better, kind of thing. And I hate to tell you this, guys, but there's a reason that MVCI is not going to Evo and Fighters is. So that's kind of the bottom line there. Alex and Brinton, what is your take on more first-party titles from Sony?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've always wondered why Sony's never been as strong as an in-house developer like, say, Nintendo has. It seems like they've really just wanted to push the third-party market, which is a big selling point for the PlayStation, I guess, but PC's really rapidly caught up with that market. I guess my one concern is, can this be financially viable for Sony? You guys were kind of talking about the costs and why games rarely remain kind of console exclusive. Do you think this deficit can be kind of made up with Sony, who can probably have more of a bank and more of a way to foot a bill for having an exclusive PlayStation game, as opposed to needing to cover their bases and cover costs by going multi-plat?
Well, to answer your question before, the reason that they didn't do a lot of in-house stuff like early on in the early PlayStation days, they didn't have the money. They were a tiny division of Sony Music. And so at that point, their answer to that was they had to reach out to second and third party developers to create mascots for them. That's why we have Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon. Croc is another one that comes to mind. That's why we have a lot of those not franchises, but a lot of those attempts at being a mascot, but they're not first party, they're second party. And well, Sony literally looked at that, and since they could justify it to the higher ups, that's how they continued from there on in, as they relied more on second party stuff instead of third party. Kind of how Microsoft does that now, because, like, if you look at it, yes, they were making unique games, and they did own Rare. So at that point, you could technically make an argument that Rare is just an internal team for Microsoft. And they did do like Conquer Live and Reloaded, but a lot of their success came from second-party developers like Bungie for Halo. So at that point, you got to work with what sticks. And that's what's made PlayStation as viable as it is that they have studios like Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, Insomniac, Sly Sucker Punch, right?
Yeah, Sucker Punch.
The Sucker Punch, you have all of these studios that work for them and deliver great content. But another thing that also helped out with the PlayStation and made it a worthwhile place for people to go was that there was a lot of third-party developers that were very sick of Nintendo, and Sony offered them a viable alternative.
Mainly because Nintendo burned Sony in the first place, so it's a case of, oh, you want to cancel our deal to make a console? Fine, F you.
And it didn't matter because they were able to say, no, we've got the most recent Final Fantasy. No, we've got the most recent Metal Gear. Does Nintendo have that? No. And so that's what ultimately helped them in the PlayStation to PlayStation 2 era. So hopefully that answers your question there. But yeah, I mean, you got to go with what sticks. And for Sony and for Microsoft, second party has always been a really great way for them to have a lot of in-house stuff. Now, granted, I'm also going to point this out. Again, there is a first party title that is out for Sony, which is Knack from the PlayStation 4 director Mike Cerny. And I know a lot of people have hatred for it, but I mean, it is still viable for them, and it is technically a cute and cuddly mascot. that you can go for the PS4. So, I mean, they do have that at least. And I have a feeling that in their plans, they will probably be doing more stuff for NAC. Brinton, where are you standing with the Sony announcement to go more first party?
I strongly feel that this would be a fantastic idea, assuming that it's not one big April Fool's joke.
See, that's the problem that we have to actually assume it because it's starting April 1st.
I mean, I hope once April 1st rolls around, it's like a beautiful, wonderful, what's it called? Like announcement where you're like, this is not a joke, this is happening, and then my little heart will burst with excitement because it'll be like, it's my birthday. What a wonderful, wonderful announcement. But I think this would be really, really good for Sony because, like you guys have mentioned several times already, a lot of the games that come out from these companies are all primarily second party. And I would be really, really interested to see what kind of new IPs and franchises could come from in-house first party work. As everybody knows, I'm a hardcore Nintendo fan, and I have been a Nintendo fan for the majority of my life. And it's kind of like what you said at the beginning of this conversation, Adam. At the start of a brand new console from Nintendo, you can expect a new Zelda or multiple Zeldas or multiple Marios, a Mario Kart, a this, a that, all the things. And I think that would be really, really exciting to get incorporated with Sony and Microsoft, where, along the lines, the PlayStation 10 comes out and it's like, yay, this IP is going to get a new sequel and we're going to get a continuation in the story. Because one of the biggest things that I love from being a Nintendo fan, and this is like specifically with The Legend of Zelda, is like how all the games correlate with each other and the timeline and the lore and how it all comes together. And I would love to see that coming from Sony. 100%. So I'm completely all for it. So if they're listening right now, this better not be a freaking April Fool's joke, or else I will literally lose my shit on you all.
The only thing that I would say is kind of a warning is I've seen companies do this, and in fact, Microsoft has done this in the past where they've said we want to do more stuff in-house. Their answer to that is usually to buy the studio. Okay. That can have some setbacks because one of the reasons that things work the way that they do is that the studio runs the way it does. And when you buy it, well, now you're in charge and now you think your way of doing things works. And in some cases you might be right. I mean, there are actual examples of third-party developers being acquired and then being able to do so much more. But most of the time, it's an example of this not really working because things already worked in the environment they already had. I mean, look at EA over the last couple of months, how they've acquired all of these independent teams that were working for them. And now look at what they have to show for it, kind of thing. It's pretty much blown up in their face.
Yeah.
So I will say this as a warning. If you're going to do that, don't do that at the expense of, say, buying Naughty Dog. Let Naughty Dog continue to exist and continue to operate the way that it does. Instead, maybe look towards getting some prime developers and prime people in to develop stuff for you in-house.
No, I completely agree with you, Adam. Yeah. If this is truly the direction that they're going to be taking in less than a month now, then it's something. Then they can't be acquiring all these different places that have really helped them.
Well, no, technically, would that be? I just barely thought about this. Death Stranding, because I think it's PlayStation exclusive, isn't it?
It is.
So at that point, would it be second party or would it be first party?
Well, it's second party because it's coming out of Kojima's own personal studio that he created after he left Konami.
Because I was going to say, there could be your second one, but no, I think you're right because I think it's Hideo Kojima Productions still.
I mean, I can double check that, but ultimately in the end, I completely agree with you. If this is something that they plan on doing, then they just need to independently work in-house and not acquire all these other companies that have really helped them establish themselves. Just let them be and let them to continue to produce the content that they are known for producing. Because I would hate to, like, using Naughty Dog as an example, have that be acquired by Sony and then watch that start to slowly go downhill, especially with like that company producing so many franchises that I have come to love and adore from like my youth to now. So.
All right, and so final thoughts before we move on into the next Sony story. Alex and Romney, do you have any?
I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Yep. So
last thing for me, Death Stranding is being the developer is Kojima Productions.
Okay.
Which, fittingly enough, was formed on April 1st.
Anyway.
Was it really?
Yes, it was. Kojima way back in 2005, April
Kojima,
1st.
Your sense of humor is killing me. So the next portion of this is kind of bad news for Sony because they've actually had to make an announcement that has disappointed a lot of its fan base because a lot of us, including me, have now gotten an email from Sony saying that PlayStation Plus, if you're a customer of it, will stop offering monthly PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita titles from next year. So starting March 8th, 2019, the PlayStation Plus monthly programs that you get or monthly games that you get in that lineup for free will no longer include PS3 titles or Vita titles. And this has already gotten people speculating that support for the PS3 may be looking to end pretty soon. And frankly, I mean, it's disappointing. Don't get me wrong, guys. It's very disappointing, but it's also kind of predictable at this point because I actually predicted that PS3 support and 360 support would end about 2 years ago because they wanted to push these new consoles. And that would have been the way to do it, is to stop supporting the old and going with the new. I'm glad that we've gotten as much time with these as we have. But yeah, this was an inevitability, is that eventually Sony and Microsoft, because I have a feeling that's coming down the pike from them very soon, but moving right into PlayStation, that eventually their focus would go into PS4. And at that point, they would stop supporting the Vita, they would stop supporting the PS3, and the first starting of that would be the infrastructure that is there for the PlayStation Store. So, I mean, while it's sad, it's also very expected, and you guys still have a year. All right. So at that point, I guess my advice to you and my opinion is go get the games that you want to get off that PS3 store, because even though this is just to the PlayStation Plus service, I have a feeling 6 or 7 months down that road, they're going to stop supporting the PS3 store kind of thing, because that's usually how this kind of goes. Where are we standing with this as far as opinions? Romney, do you have any?
Well, I mean, like you said, it's not that surprising considering just how long they've supported, and it's nice and all that they were offering these free titles for the PS3 and the Vita, but when you consider that the PS3 has had a long enough run, and that the Vita was ultimately a failure for Sony as a company, it's very much a case of, yeah, it was a matter of time. I mean, it's disappointing, but like you said, they want to move on to the new stuff, and well, there's not much point in continuing. Yeah, and there's not much point in continuing to support a console that's more than 10 plus years old, as well as another console that they don't even really make any major games for that are released physically, aside from what the third parties are willing to port.
I think indie developers are still kind of making things for PS3, but they're starting to integrate that stuff. I've seen a lot of people who are making stuff specifically for 360 and PS3 kind of moving to Switch, or being incentivized to move up to PS4 or up to Xbox One.
Yeah, and in the case of the Vita, a lot of the indie developers usually make it for both PS4 and Vita, as opposed to having it be Vita exclusive. So much so, some of the games even feature cross-buy, where if you buy it for one, you get it on the other.
Well, and Vita's not necessarily too much of a stretch from PS4. That a lot of the early menu designs and a lot of that infrastructure was tried out in the Vita. So at that point, it's not necessarily too much of a stretch to start there and then move up into PS4. But I have seen a lot of independent companies being heavily incentivized to make stuff for the newer consoles or to upgrade. And in some cases, I think I've even heard stuff of like, we'll pay for the engine. We'll pay for the engine upgrade if you can make it work, kind of thing. Because we would still like these games coming out. Alex, what do you think about PlayStation Plus no longer offering PS3 and Vita?
Well, as I don't have PlayStation Plus, I guess this doesn't really affect me too much. And you guys have pretty much made all the points that need to be made. It's been over a decade since the original PS3 has been out.
We're coming up on no, we're hitting 10. I was thinking, like, are we hitting 15 years with the PS3?
Like
no, we're
12
10
years. I think we're like at 12 years now, aren't we? Like 2006.
We are 12 years. It came out November 11th, 2006.
Yeah.
Is it 2006?
Yeah.
Point being, that console be old.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's when did the PS4 launch? It was 2012.
I'm trying to figure that out right now.
It's like 2011, 2012. So I mean, you already had, guys, way longer lifespan for the PS3 than jumping to the PS4.
2013.
2013. So
yes,
that would have been
2013.
Yeah, so like people got used to like every 5 years getting new ones, and this one went 6. Went 6 years, guys. Well, actually, no, it went 7. It went 7 years before we had a console upgrade. So holy moly. And now the PS3 is technically, it's 12 years old. Holy crap, guys. I am old. Because I can remember still going through the Walmart and having to go through with a National Guard guy because there had been thefts of PS3s.
Yeah, and I remember the stories of the PS3s setting people's homes on fire when they first launched.
I still remember when the PS3s even came out myself, because I remember telling my parents, I was like, oh, we should get one, since we never ended up getting a PS2, because around the time we were considering like buying a used PS2, and then it just never happened.
Yeah. Well, the problem was that, I mean, around that time, it was still like a $600 console, because it was more worth it to get the $600 model than to get the $500 model.
That's because Sony was trying to have it be backwards compatible for both the PS2 and PS1, and that's what caused it to get super, super hot and catch fire.
Yep. I think there was even a defect in the controller, wasn't there, where it actually, like, its battery got super, super hot and it started melting in your hands.
Yeah, like that was part of it, and the reason, and basically having to build chips for the 3 engines for the 3 different consoles was why that console was so expensive. Yeah, like it's one of those cases of, considering how rough a launch the PS3 had, and the fact that it's lasted this long tells you something.
Exactly, and the fact that the framework has lasted, so like 2013 was when the PS4 came out. We still have had framework up until, so like a full 12 years you've been able to have PS3 experiences. That's ridiculous for previous consoles. So I think that pretty much hits the nail on the head. I think we've covered up all the final thoughts. The next story actually has another Sony-based announcement that we're going to get into, which I'm sorry to the listener that brought this up. Apparently, I neglected to mention this for a couple of weeks. And I went back and I looked at the email. I couldn't find it, so I am deeply sorry. But yes, we actually forgot to announce this when Spyro got announced. Around the same time, we also got the announcement that Medieval, one of the unique mascots that came out for the original PlayStation, is getting a PS4 remaster. And so all I could find on this was the official trailer that was up on YouTube, but has since been redistributed everywhere else. But I completely forgot about this. And Medieval is actually one of those other properties that could technically be done in-house. I think the remake is being done in-house. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, so thoughts on that? And again, I'm sorry to the listener that brought this up. I didn't mean to ignore you, but yeah, Medieval is getting a remake, and I think it's coming out this year.
Cool.
I haven't played it, so no thoughts.
I've seen it, but I've not played it.
Well, I've seen it, and just given the rate that they're doing a lot of these remasters, I'm just kind of keeping my fingers crossed of please announce a Legend of the Dragoon remaster. It's what the world needs.
Oh no, Romney, don't. This is like LucasArts from last week. Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope like that. Or like the possibility. No, stop it, Drac. Stop it. No sequel, no prequel, no nothing.
Somebody's having a crisis, so it sounds like we need to move on.
I want this, and I know it can't happen. That's the sad reality. So yeah, like we said, the Medieval was kind of attached to another one, which is a story based in Activision this time. Now, earlier this year, we did report that Spyro the Dragon will be getting the Insane Trilogy treatment, where Spyro 1, Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, and Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon will be getting a collection reboot or remastering coming out this year. I don't necessarily believe that this year part of it. I think it'll be a 2019 release at the end, but it's still awesome to be able to do. But Activision has also now gone on the record and said that they are looking for other remasters to do with properties that they currently own. And this is where things get a little bit more difficult, and we had to do a little bit of legwork for it because a question arose with this. What other old school stuff do you have that you can remaster? Activision Blizzard is pretty much set in the current games department. I mean, Blizzard pretty much sets that for them. And then occasionally they have a Call of Duty game that comes out. But aside from Spyro the Dragon, which they do have the rights to, and I think they still have their rights in a way for Crash. But I couldn't really find another property. Like Romney found Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
and that might have been a way to go. But the problem is that we actually just recently found out this week, Tony Hawk has left Activision.
Well, yeah, then they've lost the license for quite some time. Like the reason that the most recent Tony Hawk game was released in as an incomplete state that you had to download like a 40 gig patch was because it was literally released on the last day that they had the license. So. And a lot of people in the comments of the IGN article we're looking at are listing all of these various titles Activision has released, like, oh, Spider-Man the movie, Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Problem is, those are all third-party licenses that they don't have the rights to.
I can already tell you, Star Wars, there's no way Disney will authorize you to remake Bounty Hunter. There's already no guarantee on a lot of that stuff. Like the Spider-Man games, I mean, Sony's already got Insomniac working on a Spider-Man game. They would definitely have Insomniac remake it.
Yeah. Plus, the other thing to consider is that given that the partial control of the Spider-Man rights have gone back to Marvel/Disney, they're probably going to yank the chain and say, no, we want this more in line with the current stuff. Don't go back and remind people of the Sam Raimi movies and the fact that they exist.
I love the fact that somebody in the comments actually also brings up Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare got remade. Like, that already has a remastering. We're not going to remaster it again. But, you know, just looking at the list that they have here, the other one that makes me kind of sad is Tenchu, because they are, I think Activision is on the second game.
Yeah, because Tenchu...
Run Software owns the Tenchu license.
Sort of. Tenchu's in kind of a weird place, considering the studios that have worked on it, since the main company behind it, Acquire, is kind of in flux in terms of where they actually are. They used to be second party, then they went third party. The reason I know this is because Acquire is the developer of one of my favorite video game series, Way of the Samurai. And so the rights to Tenchu, unless Sony decides to flex its spending muscle, don't expect a Tenchu remaster anytime soon.
I think the most that you're going to get is moving them up to the PS4 store, and that'll be it, kind of thing. But yeah, going into the other classic games that people are also bringing up, Spider-Man the movie, again, Insomniac would do it. Star Wars, there's no way Disney would let you do it. True Crime, I don't even think that was popular enough to contend with Rockstar, and therefore why bring it back? X-Men Legends, that's actually kind of a sad one. I wouldn't mind seeing X-Men Legends come back, but I don't know if I want it remastered.
Well, yeah. Plus, again, Marvel/Disney controls the rights now, so...
Yeah, so at that point, like, a lot of the stuff is just not likely. I mean, I appreciate the effort here, Activision, but it doesn't look like you have too many licenses to your name.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Like, one title people keep bringing up is Gun, but that's also a similar case where the studio is kind of in flux. But that at least seems a bit more likely than the third
That's kind
party.
of the problem, is a lot of the stuff that we're bringing up, Activision wasn't the developer, they were the publisher for it. So, I mean, and the problem is that Activision just doesn't have a whole lot of stuff in-house that was on those old consoles, aside from movie adaptations and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, most you could probably see is maybe if they decide to mine the Blizzard library, maybe. So maybe if they decide to do a remaster of Blackthorn or something.
Yeah, I mean, they could. But I don't see Blizzard doing it. If Blizzard was going to do it, they would have done it already. And frankly, given I haven't put this review out, but StarCraft Remaster was kind of a disappointment as far as I'm concerned. And there's already talk of Warcraft 3 Remaster, and I just looked at that and went meh. So I don't see a whole lot in the Blizzard library that they can do aside from maybe like Lost Vikings, bringing that back as a viable platformer for Activision. Alex and Brinton, what is your take on Activision wanting to do more remasters for their existing properties?
I feel like if there's like a need or a demand for it, then why not? Because I know very specifically, at least from what I was reading on Twitter after the Crash Bandicoot remaster came out last year, is that a lot of people are like, we want Spyro, we want Spyro, we want Spyro. And even I was like, holy crap, yes, we want Spyro. Like, I totally jumped on that bandwagon and I'm not ashamed of it. And so I feel like it's only going to be viable if that is the case. If there's a demand for it, if there's like a popular demand for it. If not, then I feel like it's going to be a waste of time, money, and resources that could be spent into other projects and other things that are, for lack of a better word, viable.
Pretty much. Alex, what about you?
Just taking a quick look through kind of their games, I don't see much. There really isn't much
here.
I mean,
I'm looking at the IPs too, and a lot of them are movie based, so I just can't see that happening.
Yeah, and those would be some of the games I think people would want would be like the original Spider-Man games based around the Sam Raimi films. Obviously, they can't do that. They can't do Star Wars. I just don't see much for Activision to really do here.
And the other problem is that they have actually a lot of single entries in a series. And so at that point, you can't remaster the series when you only have, like, for example, they have the rights to Doom 3. You can't remaster all of Doom because you don't have the Doom license, plus Bethesda already did it, kind of thing. Or in this case, I mean, another series that I could see that they could do, and I kind of hope it doesn't happen, is Guitar Hero. And I don't see that happening. I mean, I know that they kind of brought back harmonics, but I don't see people going out of their way to buy guitar controllers again.
Yeah, rhythm games have been kind of dead for a long time, haven't they?
Unless you're talking Just Dance.
Well, yes and no. They like on consoles, yes, they've more or less been dead except for Just Dance. But when you look at smartphone games, have a steady foothold in that market, especially in Asian territories, when you consider a lot of there's like the Hatsune Miku stuff that gets put out, as well as various other tied to the various idol groups. So rhythm games have kind of gone the way of most smartphone games, where it's like, okay, there's a clear audience on smartphones, not really enough on consoles, so that's where they're all going.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this, but Activision holds the rights to the Transformers series of games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's one they could probably do. That's like the only movie tie-in license that I could see them being able to do at this point, because that's still firmly with Paramount and Platinum Dunes and Hasbro.
And the Platinum game was really good, but yeah, no, I don't want to see remasterings of like Transformers Armada. I really don't want to see that.
Why not a remastering of Howard the Duck? Because they published the Howard the Duck game.
There's a Howard the Duck game.
Is there really?
I didn't realize this, but apparently there is.
It came out for the Commodore 64 around the same time as the movie.
Okay, we need to move on here because this is going down a very dark path.
I would play that.
So that's actually wrapping up the technology portion of the evening, or the gaming portion. Moving on into the entertainment one, our top story is kind of a retread into, or an update onto, a story we've covered, which was way back when we covered the firing of Harvey Weinstein and all of the situation regarding him and what the beginnings were of the Me Too movement, the hashtag Me Too movement. We can now unfortunately report, well, I guess unfortunate for some and not for others, the Weinstein Company is looking to file for bankruptcy. So because of recent situations, and I'm guessing because of the lawsuits that have come from recent situations, they have just recently, or the board has released a statement after it became clear that no compromise would be able to be made with potential buyers for the company after all of this crap hit the fan. While we recognize this is an extremely unfortunate outcome for our employees, our creditors, and any victims, the board has no choice but to pursue the only viable option to maximize the company's remaining value, an orderly bankruptcy process. And so the reality of this is that, congratulations, Me Too movement, you have killed the Weinstein Company. Not so much, but I guess you had a hand.
I'm okay with this.
The problem, I mean, this is kind of something that I think you and me, Romney, kind of saw on the wall the second that Harvey got fired.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw that happening, we knew repercussions were going to come to the Weinstein Company.
Yeah, especially considering that especially with the haphazard, like, defense of himself that Bob Weinstein tried to launch after the allegations came forward, which a lot of people, quite rightfully so, called him out on. And so, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, considering that the most powerful man in Hollywood has been taken down and fallen so far, when you look at that, given that they were trying to sell their assets to new investors, an investor looking at this just like, oh, this company's embroiled in a bunch of controversy. This is going to be a huge money sink with lawsuits alone. I'm not going to buy into this sinking ship.
Yes, but despite the bankruptcy of the Weinstein Company, it doesn't look like you've seen the end of Harvey Weinstein. Because if you go to Hollywood, this will be here to greet you.
Why?
So, yes. There will be a gold statue put up of Harvey Weinstein on his proverbial casting couch.
Yes. Now, the thing to keep in mind, the Oscars are this weekend, and this statue was put up near where the Oscars is going to be hosted near the Dolby Theater. And so it's actually been part of a huge series of artistic movements by a bunch of artists that are quite rightfully outraged at how far Hollywood will go to protect one of their own. I mean, you have this golden statue of Harvey Weinstein in a bathrobe on his casting couch with an open robe with obvious parts covered by an Oscar. And then you also have the billboards that are openly confronting the fact of the numerous victims and the fact that nobody's been arrested for what is effectively, well, sexual crimes. And so I was the one who dug this up, and it was because, well, yeah, because you literally have the Oscars, which is basically an industry-wide circle jerk, everybody more or less congratulating each other on, whatever they felt they accomplished, even though they didn't accomplish anything, and naturally trying to throw one big party. And, well, the rest of us are just like, yeah, no, we're not going to let you forget all this crap you've pulled for years and years and years. It's time to wake the fuck up, Hollywood.
Yeah, so people might notice that, at least on the live stream, I've put up an image from the Reuters article that Romney found of the statue in question. So this is what is going to be outside the Oscars, and while I understand the statement for it, my only problem is that I could see a bunch of people on Hollywood going, oh, that's such a beautiful statue. That should just be right in the middle of Hollywood for us, because Harvey was such a great man.
Considering the pose, I wouldn't imagine that's going to happen.
Nah, probably not. But yeah, looking at this, it's the work of two artists that are under the pseudonyms Plastic Jesus and Ginger. They were also responsible for producing naked statues of Donald Trump that appeared in various U.S. cities back in 2016 before his election as our current president. And so it's just another feather in the cap of a couple of artists who are basically using art to call attention to the issues of the day, which basically is what good art should do.
Yeah, so this is the point where we get into opinions. I mean, while I shouldn't be happy about this, but I am happy about the bankruptcy of the Weinstein Company, because unfortunately I know that means that there's going to be a lot of employees out of work, but given the amount of lawsuits that were going to be hitting them anyway, I'm pretty sure a lot of those people saw the writing on the wall and they left. Okay. Or they at least secured another place to go. So the bottom line is while that is kind of sad for them, I'm still going to have my opinion of good riddance to bad rubbish, because they allowed for this crap to go on for years. The statue, while I still do believe that Hollywood will find this strangely compelling and want to keep it, I actually do like the statement that it provides, and I like where it is.
Yep. And looking at this, a comment in the Weinstein Company article, again from IGN, brings up probably the most likely scenario. Although they are filing for bankruptcy, they're probably not going to close their doors. Looking at what the most likely option, and it's something we've heard rumors of through the grapevine, is more likely they're probably going to shut down, and by shut down, mainly change their name and try to rebrand themselves as a completely separate company and hope that people are none the wiser.
Yes, and part of me kind of hopes that that doesn't go through, but if they do it, say, without the Weinsteins, I'm okay with it. Because here's the thing, like, Harvey is the guilty party here, so's Bob. Bob did fire him, but Bob let this go on for years. And Bob knew about it. And so at that point, I think any Weinstein connection, if they do rebrand, like I think Romney's story is likely that they will rebrand. They need to get rid of the radioactive element within their board.
Yep.
And probably any other board members that were aware of this. Like this might actually need to be like a full-on reset of the company.
Yeah, they may even have to get rid of some of their talent, considering, and again, because of some of the crap that's gone on with Quentin Tarantino running his mouth for a lot of various factors, it's kind of a case of they may even have to look at getting rid of some of the talent that isn't doing their PR department any favors.
Yeah. So, but onto the statue portion of it, again, it's one of those things where I actually have debated because the Oscars are this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I'm almost tempted to watch the Oscars just to see how many people get offended by that statue.
Yeah, like
easily. There's going to be like a huge political statement, and I'm pretty sure the Me Too is going to rear its head into the Oscars this weekend easily.
I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel's going to find plenty to talk about on the statue and on the Me Too.
That actually reminds me of a really powerful one of the billboards, because, again, the reason I keep mentioning these billboards is because one of the films nominated is called 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Yep. And so an artist set up billboards in the same style of those billboards. And my favorite of the 3 is literally saying, name the names on stage or shut the hell up, because you have a lot of people showing solidarity but not actually doing a goddamn thing. And so I like that, where it's a case of name names on stage or shut the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's one of those things that it might actually compel me. I'm going to phrase this carefully. It might compel me to watch the Oscars just to see a bunch of celebrities get pissed at a inanimate object. But it's probably not going to be, like, it'll be entertaining for a little while, and then I'm going to want to go do something else.
Yeah. That pretty much summarizes my Oscars experience, where I watch it for a little bit and then realize, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I really doubt anyone's going to truly get pissed. I think besides Kimmel, everyone else is just going to try and
I think Paltrow will have a few words. I think Paltrow will.
Paltrow?
Gwyneth Paltrow? Yeah, she's been a very ardent defender of Harvey. I think Paltrow and a few other people, including oh crap, it's not Julianne Moore. It's Streep. Yeah, Streep will probably have some stuff to say.
She'll definitely have some stuff to say.
So at that point, just to see the meltdown on camera might be worth it.
I really doubt they're going to come out in defense of Harvey. We've seen with the Me Too movement, especially in Hollywood, we've sort of seen the sheep packed mentality where it's like all of a sudden, now we're all offended by the Weinstein's actions. Oh, we should have known all along. We've talked about this before when we've gone through the story, especially regarding the Weinsteins. It is. Yeah,
I'll believe your disdain when Roman Polanski is finally resolved.
That's
I know it's never going to happen.
I mean, the only way that will ever happen is if the European Union decides to kick him out.
I'm not saying bring him over to be arrested. I'm saying all the people that have defended him in the past, stop defending him. That's never going to happen.
Well, try directing that to the people who defend Woody Allen as well.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Hollywood.
Well, aren't they all like the same? Because I swear, like, Streep is in all 3 of those categories. She's defended Weinstein, she's defended Allen, and she's defended Polanski.
All right, well, if anyone's listening to this after the fact and has some time on their hands, we want you to create the Hollywood sexual abuser Venn diagram. See how many celebrities fall right in the middle.
Are we creating some twisted form of 6 Degrees of Kevin from Kevin Bacon?
Why not?
It sounds like it.
Well, and I at least got to ask this question because somebody did actually bring it up on Twitter. Do we actually see, like, when the Oscar people start coming in, them trying to remove it?
I don't know. Maybe the city.
Or trying to cover it up?
Probably more.
Probably not the Oscar people, but the city of Los Angeles might, because
in regards to the telecast, most they would probably do is they probably won't give it any attention, where they won't show it any footage of it. They won't basically any protesters. It'll basically be like an authoritarian government Truman Show sort of thing, where any protesters that try to jump to photobomb or get into any of the cameras, they're just going to frame out, cut out. Basically, they're going to try to make it look as if it doesn't exist.
Wow, I just came up with it. So basically what you're explaining is what WWE does with Roman Reigns these days. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Oh, wait, we can make it so that we can edit this in that people are clapping for Roman Reigns, when in reality, they're not.
Well, I mean, we already do it for political events like State of the Union addresses, so it's no surprise.
Yeah, pretty much. So I will at least say this, that on Oscar night, that statue image, I'm going to go get it because it's going to be up on my Twitter quite a bit. It's like, well, the Oscars aren't going to show this off, so I will.
Yep.
So final thoughts before we move on into the next story, because, I mean, there isn't too much we can get into here. The Weinstein Company has made their bed, so to speak. That's a really bad analogy now that I think about it.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Well, the problem is that they made their bed, but the problem is that they've made their bed, but now everyone's too smart to lie in it.
Way too smart to lie in it. They know what's been there.
Well, given the bankruptcy, I actually have one more question. Given the bankruptcy, do you assume perhaps they're going to have to liquidate a lot of their properties and then begin the process of rebranding?
That'll be the process of bankruptcy. Is they'll have to liquidate a lot of their assets. The rebranding will be later, after they've taken care of their debts and all that. And that's if they can recover from it, because I mean, because Romney's kind of our resident lawyer here, so a lot of those lawsuits don't even have a resolution, do they?
Not usually. Like when it comes to bankruptcy, it somewhat protects assets, but it also means that you basically have to surrender yourself to various creditors to basically have someone go through and say, okay, well, here's what we can do to help cover these debts and costs.
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is a lot of the accusers of Harvey that actually are taking him to court, like that stuff is still in court and there isn't a final judgment on them.
Well, a lot of it depends on whether they're suing the Weinstein Company or Harvey Weinstein themselves, and it also ultimately depends on whether or not the Weinstein Company is a limited liability corporation, which I'm not sure if they actually are a limited liability company. I can see in the camera that Alex is looking this up as I speak, but that's kind of where you have the distinction here, is whether they're suing the Weinstein Company or Harvey Weinstein personally. And so if they're suing the Weinstein Company directly, then yes, their lawsuits could be affected. But if they're suing Harvey Weinstein, the person, that could be considered more or less separate, especially given that he's been ousted from the Weinstein Company.
Yep, they're limited liability. They are limited liability.
Yeah, so that raises it right there, because when a company is a limited liability corporation, that means that they can't really, for example, if in the weird off-brand thing where we decide to make a multi-channel network, if Adam decided to incorporate Geek News as a limited liability company, if any one of us gets sued, that doesn't mean that if anyone sues the Geek News company, that doesn't mean that we lose our personal finances and our personal possessions as a result of the lawsuit. It means that the actions of the company are limited to the company. So what
again isn't happening.
Yes. And so in the case, although part of the reason they're going bankrupt is because a lot of these attorneys general, I think it was specifically the New York Attorney General, did file a lawsuit against the Weinstein Company, meaning that they do have to pay that money, which is part of the reason why they're filing for bankruptcy and part of the reason they were looking for new investors. And so that may be affected in the sense of, okay, well, they'll probably find some way to reach some sort of settlement. As for any lawsuits leveled against Harvey Weinstein, the person, those will probably still be ongoing, depending on which side ultimately succumbs to the financial war of attrition that is the lawsuit system.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that could affect things down the line, but like the rebranding that we're talking about is going to be after all this is taken care of, and a lot of those assets are liquidated, and they basically look at the pennies they have left and say, like, this is what we can do.
Yeah, especially considering, and even looking at some of the companies that the Weinstein Company were involved in, it's honestly, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, we're going to lose these distributors, but honestly, that's not a bad thing. I mean, I know about this because the Weinstein Company distributed a number of martial arts films under their Dragon Dynasty brand. But it's like a lot of people may think, oh, but we're losing Dragon Dynasty. But at the same time, other companies will rise to fill in those voids. I mean, Dragon Dynasty goes down, we have Well Go Entertainment.
Yeah. So this just came in from a friend of mine on Twitter. So basically, the joke he's trying to make is, so what we're basically saying is that the statue of Harvey Weinstein is now the icon of the No Pants Warrior movement. No. Because we're not talking about that kind of fun that you could be having with no pants.
Do not taint the hashtag
No.
with Harvey Weinstein.
He is in fact not a no pants warrior. Now that we've cleared that up, moving on to the next story. So we kind of move on into a little bit more sad, and this one actually is sad for fans of Kevin Smith. I was not able to locate the original article, but while on tour, literally the night before his next tour date, he suffered a major heart attack and had to cancel his appearance. And yeah, I think they've now officially confirmed that he's had to cancel the rest of his appearances. He had to go straight home. I know that, Kevin Smith is a good enough guy that he'll work things out to get people refunded. But yeah, this kind of sucks on both levels. Is like, you wanted to go out and meet Kevin Smith and you don't get to meet him anymore, but dude suffered a major freaking heart attack. So I'm kind of glad at the decision that he made, especially since, like, if this had been me in August, I'd be right down the same line Kevin Smith was going. So for those who aren't sure what actually happened, is he actually did announce that because of the amazing amounts of stress that a tour schedule does provide to him, he suffered a major heart attack there and has since had to go straight home. Like he needed to go home and recover. We've since gotten other tweets from him, basically saying that he's home again. And, now thankfully he's feeling a lot better, but he's home again, and it's probably going to be a while before he can get things going. And we actually do have a little bit more testimony as to what actually happened, because some people, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter actually asking. So I started feeling nauseous and I tried to lay down on the floor. And when I was staying down on the floor, I went up getting ill, like threw up, mostly bile. I just thought I had some bad milk. That was it. I started feeling pressure on my chest, but not like there's an elephant on my chest. I just couldn't catch my breath. Honestly, I was never really in pain. And at that point, they eventually just took him to the hospital where, yes, he suffered a major heart attack. So thankfully, he's okay now. But yeah, he did have to cancel his tour dates. And I think the panel can agree for the best.
Well, yeah, especially considering that they had to put a stent in his left anterior descending artery, otherwise he would have died. So they had to do surgery to keep him from dying. That's how bad it got.
Yeah, it got bad enough they had to put a hardware store in him. So at that point, yeah, I'm actually glad that he made the decision to go home and to start recovering. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Kevin Smith says. That's kind of the way it goes for most celebrities, but considering, I mean, he's a good director. He's actually had some really great moments in his career. This was not the way for him to go down, kind of thing. Like we want to be able to see him do so much more. And this was ultimately the best decision that could have happened. Brinson and Alex, do you have any thoughts on this one?
One of the first thoughts that came to my mind when I was reading the article earlier this week, when he was like, how do I want to word this? I just find it funny that in some sense he was like denying that it was a heart attack, because it's like, oh, I didn't feel any pain. yet it happened.
This
So
just in: most heart attack sufferers do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
it's just,
that's
I mean,
yeah.
I just feel like, again, I just feel like there's just a little bit of denial there, and I guess that's just something that I can't fully like pull myself away from as much as I should. I'm glad that he's recovering and glad that he got the surgery that he needed, and I mean, obviously on social media, he made it very aware. Wow, I didn't realize, like, I feel a lot more alert. I like didn't realize that I could start feeling this good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it really sucks that he had to get to the point of a heart attack for him to realize that he probably needs to start making some better decisions in his life if he wants to stick around for a long time.
What's really sad is, like, I saw a lot of his Twitter statements, and this is kind of a sobering story for me, guys, because people might remember in August I was having some issues too, and I had to take like a month-long vacation, and I literally looked at his testimony, what he was doing, and this scared the shit out of me, pardon my French. I was doing the exact same thing. Okay, I was literally doing what he was doing, and that's not a good indicator, because, you know, I have actually seen a lot of stories on this. The last person that you want to talk to about a heart attack is the one who's suffering from a heart attack, because they, like, especially in this day and age where there's such a power through it mentality. And I'm guaranteeing that's what Kevin was doing during a lot of this stuff. He's like, he was powering through it. It's okay. I just had bad eggs for breakfast, and that's why I'm going through a lot of this stuff. And he was powering through it, but everything was telling him that, no, you need to go to the hospital. You're not doing well.
Yeah, there's actually, and what a lot of people don't realize, because when it comes to heart attacks, most of us know of, left arm goes numb, pain in the chest. Those are the signs of a heart attack. But now that we know a lot more about the circulatory system, we realize that that's not the only signs of a heart attack. There's a lot of other ways they can manifest. And it's not even just, I mean, especially when you consider, especially with the high rate of heart problems in women, because we knew a lot about what happened with a man who had a heart attack, but not so much with women. But we're now learning more and more that, hey, the initial symptoms we thought were the only things that determined a heart attack, it turns out there's a lot more. And one of my Tai Chi instructors actually puts it best. When your body is feeling pain, it starts out as a whisper. And you don't want to let it build up until the point where your body is screaming. You want to take care of your problems when it's only a whisper.
Yeah, I'll admit on this one, this is probably the one thing I shouldn't have done, because this just made me pee my pants, is after I saw the Kevin Smith article, I went and read up on heart attacks online. Don't do that, by the way, people. It doesn't help your situation, especially when you're as girthy as me, because, like, the thing that threw me off that is going to kind of scare you, Brenton, is like, people have literally gone through minor heart attacks and not even realize they did. Like, the solution corrected itself internally and you were never aware it happened.
Jeez.
I'm pretty sure something like that happened to me a few years ago, because there was a week back in November of 2014. It was actually the very same week Smash Brothers was coming out for the Wii U. And the reason why I remember this is because
you had a heart attack because of Smash Brothers?
No,
Enough to give everybody a heart attack.
I enjoyed what I was able to play before I was in too much pain and decided to go to sleep. But to use what Romney said, my body at the start of the week was whispering, and by that Saturday morning, it was screaming. And a 8-hour ER visit later, and I had viral pericarditis and pleuritis. So, it's like, you got to take care of yourself. And I know that I am a huge offender of not taking care of myself. And I'm glad I have a husband who literally has to be the one to remind me, again, using Romney's words, okay, let's take care of this, because it's a whisper. Before it becomes a scream, because what, like you said, Adam,
that's especially hard these days, because there's such a power through it mentality that we all have.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, I just powered through the whole entire week. I was just like, oh, chest pain, no big deal. I'll make it to the end of the week, and I did. like I picked up my copy of Smash Brothers and I got like my very first amiibo and I was playing and blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, what a lovely evening. Everything hurts. I'm hella tired. I'm just gonna go to bed.
Exactly.
And then I woke up not being able to breathe. So, I mean, not a super fun weekend. Don't get in a tangent, Brenton. But anyway, yeah, like ultimately in the end, like as much as I feel like he was like initially in denial of what happened, I'm glad that he's like realizing, again, if I want to be around longer, it looks like I need to start making some changes in lifestyle, not necessarily like in what I eat and what I do, but how I like mentally look at what's going on as well, and start to step away from that push through it mentality. Because I know for me, as hard, like people have to remind me to take a step back and not push through it. I was like super sick a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you knew this, Adam, because we had to like cancel a weekend of recording, but like I got home from work and I was just like, I am in so much pain. I am so tired. I feel like crap. And the following morning, I was just like, I'm not going to work. I just can't do this. And Nathan was really good to like be right there and tell me, yeah, you're not going. It's not happening. I don't want you to go. You're not leaving this bed.
Yeah, I mean that's how scary this kind of a situation can come up, and I've already explained kind of like my scares in there, and this is stuff that I would, like I said, I was doing this too. I was doing exactly what Kevin was doing, and I was powering through and not acknowledging that my body was screaming at me too, and this is just one of those things where you kind of have to listen to your body on this one, because it can cost you a great deal. Like, Kevin got a stent. Just think if he had gotten something a little bit more serious, like, you know, he had to have a pacemaker put in, or he had to have open heart surgery kind of thing. Well, I guess the stent would be open heart surgery, but I'm saying like they actually had to go in and correct it.
Yeah, like imagine if he had to have like a quadruple bypass or something.
Yeah, something that would literally, like, stuff that, you know, we've seen people throughout media who have gone through these kinds of bypasses, and I mean, you see like drastic amounts of loss in weight. I can already tell you just from the pictures that Kevin put up, it almost looks like he has lost a little bit of weight because of the events here. So at that point,
I noticed that as well.
Yeah, he looks kind of gangly. So at that point, I'm more in the department of go take care of yourself, Kevin. Go tour later, and we can have fun with you at any point, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You need to be here for us to have fun.
Yeah, especially, and again, it kind of drives the main point home. It's very easy to think, oh yeah, there's no way stuff like this will happen to me until it happens.
Yeah.
All the more reason why you've got to be mindful of your stress levels, be mindful of what you eat, how you exercise. You don't have to like go completely vegan and live like a monk. It just means like, okay, be a bit more mindful. Make sure you're actually taking care of yourself. Make sure you're giving yourself enough time to rest and relax, that you're not pushing yourself to the point of insanity, because the stress will literally kill you.
Yeah, and I can actually speak to this. I mean, like right after that, I immediately set up a bunch of safeguards to kind of take care of myself more. And yeah, it sucks to go to the gym because I'm your typical geek and I haven't done anything to help my body in years. But and yeah, when I'm working out, it feels like I'm having a heart attack. But the funniest thing is that I actually feel a little bit more clear, a little bit more alert now that I've gotten that done.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I've started trying to lose weight after going to the therapy, was because, okay, let's try to take care of my body as well. And yeah, it's better to make yourself feel like you're having a heart attack through exercise, because by stressing out the muscles and your cardiovascular system, you make them stronger, as opposed to actually having an actual heart attack because your body is not strong enough.
Yep. Final thoughts before we move on. Alex, you've been kind of quiet on this one. So,
well, I don't have too much to say. I do definitely feel for Kevin Smith. Wishing him a speedy recovery here, and hope he feels better soon. But, you know, just what Brenton was talking about earlier, you know, how he was a little bit off put by the fact Smith was kind of not really realizing he has a heart attack. And, you know, I think this kind of, and we've kind of talked, Romney's kind of tapped on it too, that, you know, sometimes the symptoms aren't as apparent. This just makes me think of the whole trope Hollywood heart attack. it's how we often see it and perceive it on TV or in movies.
That's how we see like the sharp pain that's supposed to happen.
Like the sharp pain and the sudden grasping of the chest, right? That's how we kind of stereotype the heart attack, and that's kind of what we expect. But of course, it could be a lot more varied than that. So definitely goes to show you, you gotta.
And for the record, people, it's pressure in the chest that you feel. The pain that you're gonna feel is gonna be in your arm.
Yeah.
So,
it just reminds me, I mean, a little off topic, but it reminds me of, because the whole Hollywood heart attack, there's this lawyer on Facebook who posts these free legal tips, and one of them is just like, if you're going to pretend to have a heart attack, literally not copy the I'm Coming Eliza scene from Sanford and Son.
Yeah. or one that actually made me laugh when somebody got a bad judgment in a courtroom. They grabbed right here, not up here, not where the heart was. They grabbed here. It was like, what? Are you having a chest burster coming out? I don't understand what the hell's going on. And the judge actually did say, like, are you having an alien coming out of your belly? I don't understand.
See, that's what we need, someone who, I mean, I swear, if I'm convicted of a crime, which it won't happen, because
yes, please don't make this happen, Romney.
Well, yeah, but like that just needs to be a thing where I'm just like, okay, you know what? If I'm being convicted, yeah, I'm gonna like have like the actual effects, like, oh, are you having a chest burster?
Yeah. For that, I'd go out and get the fake chest burster kit that you can actually get. So moving on into the final story of the evening, because we're actually running low on time. And this one won't take too long, but because I swear we've reported on this way back when, but it's different companies. So it looks like Amazon is going to be pushing into genre, or is going to be continuing its push into genre television. According to Deadline, Amazon is going to be developing TV shows based on Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. So I believe we reported on this a while ago that somebody had acquired the Wheel of Time license to be able to do a series. But now it looks like Amazon is going to be doing it. And they've also acquired the rights to Stephen King's Dark Tower series. This one was probably more widely known, that we knew that there was going to be a TV series after kind of the flop that was the Idris Elba movie. So these are both going to have been acquired by Amazon, and Deadline has reported that these developments are part of a larger story about Amazon acquiring the rights to turn Lane Mbake's Culture series into a television series. So basically, because I've also gotten some confirmation that if they're going to do this, they are going to be exclusive to Prime Video. So at that point, just more stuff to try and get people, more unique stuff to try and get people into their Prime Video program, so that they then can increase those numbers. And I've actually talked to a number of people this year, or not this year, but this week, and a lot of them very ardent Wheel of Time fans, and they actually have said that yes, Prime Video is absurd, but if they were able to get a series based on a book series that they love, they'd probably do it.
Well, especially when you consider how long the Wheel of Time series is, so long that the original author died before it ended. There's a lot of material that
and
could
even after he died, there was like 3 to 4 books.
Yep, written by Brandon Sanderson, who many people may know from Mistborn.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at that point, that's how long that series is. And Dark Tower, and I mean, I don't know the actual book count for Dark Tower, but I think it's up there in numbers compared to Dark Tower Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I think it's more like 7 books or so, because I know Wheel of Time is like got like 13, 14, I think is how many they have for the Wheel of Time. And Dark Tower, I think, is more like 7 or 8 books. But point being, long-running series like that are probably more conducive to an episodic format than a feature film format. Now, Dark Tower, and this is coming from someone who actually liked the Idris Elba movie, Dark Tower had some stuff going for it where they figured, okay, well, we're going to basically treat this movie not as like an adaptation of the whole series, but just more or less an unofficial ending of the book series, where it's basically a new cycle. And it just so happens that this is the cycle where the Man in Black finally meets his end. That was how they approached it. And even Stephen King liked how that was how they approached it. Whereas with a TV series, it would allow you to go through the events of the other books and even explore some of the more ridiculous aspects of the Dark Tower series, like how all of Stephen King's other books are part of the same universe and how he even wrote himself into the stories. That was a thing.
Yeah, and for the record, like I still want to see the Idris Elba movie. I know that a lot of people didn't like it, and this was actually kind of a debate between me and Alex of like doing a vlog for this. And we eventually saw the bad reviews, and we went, well, maybe we shouldn't because movie ticket prices are horrible.
Yeah, it's definitely a stream. It's definitely a stream or rental.
Yeah,
like,
so I want to see it still because it's the Dark Tower series. I've not read a single book in it, but I've always been recommended it. And considering I've never read anything from Stephen King, this would be like, and that Dark Tower goes into a lot of fantasy. This would probably be the way to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, that's probably why I enjoyed it was because I hadn't read the book, so I didn't have a bias going in.
Yep. So with that, we've actually been able to confirm that the showrunner for Wheel of Time, it looks like Rafe Judkins, who is a former Survivor contestant, has actually he's going to be the showrunner for Wheel of Time, and he has written for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Chuck. He even posted a photo on Twitter of basically his really worn through first 3 books of Wheel of Time, just to show that like he's doing his homework and he's already working on treatments for the stories that go through the first 3 books. Dark Tower, we've also gotten confirmation that their showrunner, where was it? I had it a second ago.
Yeah, looking here, it's Glenn Mazzara, who's best known for his work on The Walking Dead.
Yeah, so we have showrunners for this. We don't necessarily have all of the other positions. I'm guessing they're getting filled right now. But I'm going to reach out to you guys in the chat as well as on the Discord server as well as our panelists. Like, what do you think about the Dark Tower and Wheel of Time becoming an exclusive property that Amazon has the rights to? And if you're a lover of either of these book series, is it enough for you to purchase into the Prime program or at least Prime Video to get access to this kind of thing? Like I said, a lot of the people I've talked to, this is an easy sell because they've been waiting for literally years for Robert Jordan's works to finally be put into an episodic format.
Yeah.
They even went as far as to get mad when other book properties like I think it was called Legend of the Seeker on CW, when that got a treatment before Wheel of Time did.
Yeah, and I remember that the thing we reported on regarding Wheel of Time was that there was a pilot of a TV series that aired in a very weird time slot so that nobody could actually see it. It was basically an ashcan film that it was a pilot that they made so that they could hold on to the rights because they somehow got the rights to the Wheel of Time but did nothing with them. But that was the only movement the Wheel of Time had in regards to jumping from the page to the screen.
Yeah, but again, we're confirming like we don't know anything other than showrunners. We don't have castings for Randall Thor, or we don't even have really writers. Like we have the showrunners, we have the directors for them. That's it. We don't have writing teams. We don't have production teams. We have nothing of the sort for either Wheel of Time or Dark Tower. So at this point, like everything is up in the air. And it could go either way, honestly, because I love Wheel of Time. I can honestly say like I'll watch these episodes to see if they're accurate because it'll take a season to go through the eye of the world. It'll be really cool to go through. And considering that I haven't read a single Dark Tower book, I'm interested in this Dark Tower series. Alex and Brinton, where are you guys standing with Wheel of Time and Dark Tower being brought to Amazon?
Not having Amazon services, having not read Wheel of Time or Dark Tower, nor seen the movie, not particularly interested in the new upcoming Disney Wheel of Time. I don't have any strong feelings, really. Different franchise, sorry.
Way different franchise, yeah.
Way different, dude. I don't remember who the author of Wrinkle of Time is, but Robert Jordan has literally been called the second coming of J.R.R. Tolkien. And I can confirm this. He is wordy. So I'm just making sure that people don't get mad at us for that. But yeah, so given you're not really a fan of it, this isn't really affecting you on it.
Not really.
Do you see like any of your friends that are fans that they would actually go and get Amazon just to get this scene?
In my closest circle right now, I don't know for sure. I think, unless I'm again already mixed up the two franchises before, but I think I had a friend quite a while ago. I remember way back in like middle school, high school, that he's a big bookworm, so he always had like books like these, and I think he was reading that series. But again, I could also be mixing it up with another. I just did 2 minutes ago, so it's possible somebody out there might be somebody, whether my close circle of friends or somebody I've known previously, might be interested.
And it might be worth it for them. Like, again, so much stuff is up in the air. Anything is possible. Like we can actually find like worthwhile people to cast as the main characters for it. And obviously we'll follow this as it goes along, but right now it's difficult to speak negative about this. This is probably a really, really great move by Amazon. I can already guarantee you, like, a lot of Game of Thrones fans, they're Wheel of Time fans too. So there you go. You can move from HBO over to Amazon.
Yeah, that's probably the intention, especially considering you can even buy a subscription to HBO through Amazon, I believe, since they sell cable subscriptions.
This is true.
Yep. And now, which I wish they would have done this before, you can now do CBS All Access through them too. I was like, damn it, I could have had the Prime player and then I could have watched Star Trek the right way.
Oh, really? Damn it.
Yeah, they just barely offered that, like, right as the season's about to end.
Oh my.
Probably because CBS realized no one was actually buying their service, so they decided to partner with someone who knows what they're doing.
Maybe because their service is crappy.
Well, I mean, obviously, Adam and myself and my husband were completely okay with purchasing the service, so I don't know.
No, don't speak for me. I have regrets.
Well, I mean, I get to watch Criminal Minds thanks to it, so I'm not completely bitter, but still.
No, but I explained this in the Star Trek episode. Is like this literally happened when I was trying to watch Into Discovery so that we could review it. And I'd get like 10 minutes into it, and then I'd have a 10-minute loading screen, and then I'd maybe get into another 5 minutes of the episode, and then I have to wait another 20 minutes at a loading screen. Yeah, no, not a good player. Not a good player. That's why when we got to that episode, I had watched the pilot. That was it.
Yeah.
And there was that was what, 7 episodes out at that point, Brenton?
Oh man, it's been. You're asking me to recall something that was like forever ago.
Yeah.
If it wasn't such a long week, maybe my mind would like remember.
Yeah, I couldn't even get to the revelations in episode 2. Like, I tried to get through to them before we did the Why We Geek episode, and I just had so many problems with that. But now I will admit, like, if Prime Video has access to it, since I still have my subscription active, I'll probably go finish Discovery that way.
Well, another thing to consider is that Amazon does have a successful track record when it comes to book adaptations when you consider the successful series they had with The Man in the High Castle, which in turn is based on a Philip K. Dick story. So there is a precedent set that Amazon knows what they're doing, and so of all these services that could nab the exclusive rights, they're probably the best contenders at this point.
Yeah, and actually, our Discord chat just brought something else that the article does state, is that they actually are also in the works of doing a episodic Lord of the Rings series too. So, I mean, that's a lot of stuff for fantasy fans to be able to get into.
Ultimately, in the end, I quickly read like a brief synopsis of these 2 series because I've never read either one of them, and the Dark Tower seems super interesting. So that's something that I definitely would want, that I probably will watch once it gets produced and put up onto Amazon. But
see, the reason I'm giggling is like you tried to read a brief synopsis of the Wheel of Time. There's no such thing.
Well, that. I mean, I pulled up Wikipedia. It's late. I tried.
I honestly believe that a synopsis of the Wheel of Time is a book in and of itself. Just because again, Jordan, like, rest in peace, Robert Jordan. I've read the first 3 books and I love and respect you, but you were the second coming of Tolkien. You really were. You're a very wordy author.
Well, yeah, that was kind of the vibe I was getting. I was just like, I'm too tired. What's the Dark Tower? Oh, this is to the point. Thank God.
Well, the thing that throws me off about the Dark Tower is like it's Stephen King writing fantasy,
which I find super interesting since he's like known as the horror dude.
Well, yeah, like with the Dark Tower, it's basically a mixture of fantasy and Western because again, the main character is the gunslinger, and so it's very much, the Dark Tower is very much the series he worked on in between a lot of his more well-known books, stuff like The Shining, Doctor Sleep, and I'm scratching my brain to try to find other like single one-off stories he's written before he became famous. But yeah, it's very much one of those cases where and this may just me be speculating, but considering how in Japan we have a bunch of anime adaptations of light novel series, we may be starting to move towards that trend with live-action television series where they're going to start adapting books for TV rather than for movies. Because with TV, you don't have to sink as much money into it. I mean, unless you're Game of Thrones and you want to make everything look impressive. But given...
But, I mean, in Game of Thrones' defense, like, if you're going to do something like that, that's probably the kind of series you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that way back when Narnia worked better on TV than I would dare say what Walden has been able to do. And I like the Walden movies. So at that point, like, this Game of Thrones is kind of the format that a Wheel of Time series would work.
Well, yeah, and another thing to consider is the success of both Amazon series, but also the Netflix series, where they more or less treat themselves as like 12-hour movies that are divided into chunks. That would allow for a quote-unquote more faithful adaptation of the books, which would please the purists, but also make it a bit more digestible for people who've never read those books and probably have no intention of reading said books.
Yep. All right. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time, so we got to wrap things up there. I think we've pretty much gone over everybody's opinions, but yeah, that's a lot of stuff to be able to go into. So we got to wrap things up for the evening. If you guys want to reach out to us to talk about additional stuff for any of these stories, first of all, let's go into each individual social media. Brinton Volley, how do people get a hold of you as well as your content?
So I am the host of BPV Gaming, which you can just see right here. And you can also follow me at Twitter, which is just listed on this bar as well. If you're part of our Discord server, you'll see a certain person go by the name of Chatore. That's how you pronounce it. That is actually me. It is my gamer tag. It's what I use for pretty much everything. And yeah, that's it.
Yep, and he just barely put up in the Discord server, and we'll go into that in a second. He just barely put up in the Discord server his most recent episodes of his Rise of the Tomb Raider Let's Play, so you guys can check that out.
Yep, that just started this week, so go give it some love.
For those who are listening on the RSS feed, his Twitter is bvolley01, just so that we've got that covered.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
No worries. It's late. Alex, how do people get a hold of you?
You can find me on YouTube. Shadow Blizzard 3000 is my channel, and I do anime content. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort. And also my channel name is also my Discord name, so you can find me pretty easily, Discord or YouTube.
All right. Stephen Romney, how do people find your content?
Well, my username both on Facebook and on YouTube and on Discord is Studio Ghost Utah. That is where you can find me and my content. I'm hoping to get back on track with a certain little video project that I'm actually really excited to unveil, mainly because it focuses on something I'm very passionate about. But as for this week's Romney's recommendation, I'm actually going to recommend the Ace Attorney anime. Now, some of you may be thinking, Romney, this anime came out a few years ago. Why are you talking about it now?
Because it's awesome.
Well, that and the reason is that Funimation has started to release the English dubbed episodes. Now, some people may be wondering, oh, why are you excited for an English dub? Well, if you're a fan of the Ace Attorney series, you know that when the games were brought to the United States, they had to rename a bunch of characters. And naturally, for me, it seemed a bit weird hearing the original Japanese names, but seeing subtitles with the English names, so I wanted to wait until there was an English dub. Especially considering that, as visually, Ace Attorney is kind of a boring series as an anime. But with the English dub, including voices such as Eric Vale as Phoenix Wright, it mitigates the problem of getting bored while watching because, one, the dub uses the American names, so if you're already a fan of the games, that takes care of that. But the voice casting is very spot on. The only voice that bothers me is the voice of Maya Fey. But considering that the character is supposed to be kind of an annoying idiot who gets herself into trouble, I feel it's fitting. But if you are a purist who, for some reason, despite wanting to listen to the original Japanese voices, want to still have the subtitles with the English US names, fortunately, Crunchyroll partnered with Funimation for the DVD release, and so you have both the original raw translated subtitle tracks with the original Japanese names and the American Phoenix Wright named subtitle tracks Crunchyroll produced. Now, a lot of people may get annoyed when they do the whole, part 1 and part 2 of an anime series. They release them separately. But for Ace Attorney, it makes sense. The first 13 episodes that I have here cover the events of the first game. So if you're someone like Alex, who doesn't necessarily want to commit to a playthrough of the games, the anime is actually a pretty good starting point since it gives you the basic story of the very first game and actually kind of fixes some of the problems in terms of the Sierra logic that the games have. So that's this...
I think it has unlike the other seasons that come later, this has every case, right?
Yes, it has all of the 4 cases from the original release of Gyakuten Saiban, so the original Game Boy Advance game. So Rise from the Ashes is not in the anime series at all because, again, that was exclusive to the DS, more or less as a teaser for Apollo Justice. But yeah, that's this week's Ronnie's recommendation is the English dub Funimation release of the Ace Attorney anime, currently available on Blu-ray and DVD, courtesy of Funimation. And if you don't want to buy the Blu-ray and DVD, you can also watch the English dubbed episodes on Verve.
Yes, and I actually have the Ace Attorney anime on order, and I can't wait for it to get here. But I actually have been considering whether or not to do Verve, just so that I can see some of those episodes before the DVD or before the Blu-rays get here. And if you guys want to reach out to me, you can do so, first of all, on my YouTube channel, which is where you're at right now, which is Drac2326. You can check out all of the awesome content that I provide. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, or at least a suspended hiatus for the moment, but I actually did have some good news come out today that a lot of the footage that I was gathering is done. So all I got to do is edit everything that I had all together. And then very soon we'll be getting back to a regular schedule around here. So YouTube fans, rejoice. It is happening. And yes, everything is coming back, as I say in the video. So you guys can look forward to that. You can also follow me, follow my channel on Facebook at DracLP. Just I'll search for DracLP on Facebook, and you'll get all of the updated information, any videos that I put up there, stuff like that. Same thing with my Twitter, which is at Drac2326. That's probably the best place to reach for me if you have any questions or my opinions on the matter. If you guys want to reach out to the podcast, the first thing that we would ask, and we heavily emphasize, is that you guys support the RSS feed. And that can be found at GeekyWeek at geekyweek.podomatic.com. You'll be able to get the most up-to-date episodes, everything like that there. And I know that I've been a little late this week with the episodes. One of the reasons being is the schedule that I've been having to work with has been just insane. And that's not necessarily going to happen from here on in now that I've freed up a lot of stuff. Normally, I try to get you guys these episodes in a more refined format by Monday morning, roughly. So you guys can expect a brand spanking new episode by Monday morning for Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. You can also follow the podcast on social media under the exact same heading for Facebook and Twitter, which is GeekyNRO. And you'll be able to get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stories we'll be talking about, any extra stuff that we want to be able to feature. Everything like that happens in those two channels. If you want to give us suggestions for stories, as we've had tonight, as well as give us feedback on stuff that we might be able to improve, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And as Romney and Brinton have pointed out, we have a Discord server, which is basically kind of the way that I've actually explained it to people is the closest thing that I'm ever going to get to creating an MCN. Okay. Never going to happen. Don't want the paperwork. But this Discord server covers basically everything under our banner, not only the podcast, but also the other 2 podcasts that I do on my own. It also covers Shadow Blazer 3000's content. It covers Studio Ghost Utah's content, BPV Gaming. All of that stuff can be found all in the same place. And if you guys want to be able to get access to that, all you have to do is go to my main page on Drac2326. You'll get the link that invites you to the server. We'll also try to send out the invite link as much as we can before doing a live podcast. So you guys can try that out. And it's just part of an ongoing effort as we unfortunately try to distance ourselves a little bit from YouTube. As YouTube continues to make some horrible decisions, they even made some recent ones this week that we didn't get into, but we couldn't really confirm. It might come up next week. So these are the ways to be able to support the podcast. And thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. You can also support the podcast. I forgot about this one on Patreon. All you have to do is look for DracLP on that one. And it just supports the entire banner of all podcasts and helps us continue to get going as YouTube continues to try and make things difficult for us. But that's going to go ahead and do it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, for your continued love that you send to us, for all of the support that you've given to our individual channels. And of course, we will be back next week for more geek news, reviews, and opinions. So for me, for Brinton, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next time.